On our agenda today, seeing no public comment, I'll close public comment and go to approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting of June 4th. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
A motion by Mahan, second by Sharp. Under discussion, any additions, corrections, clarifications, or items that need to be addressed?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Mahan.
Yes, on item 5, on page 5, in the motion.
Which item?
Well, it's on page 5. It's item 4.
Okay, thank you.
The second comment, the applicant should study relocating the pedestrian pathway. I think before pathway, we could put steps and pathway, the pedestrian steps and pathway. Two, and then I would take out the
Okay, I hope that's working now. And then I would take out the and put an A in there. So it would say the pedestrian steps and pathway to a location. And then I would insert the word after location near. So it would say pedestrian steps and pathway to a location near the existing driveway. I think that really was the intention that we. And then on item 2, or comment 2, where it says existing driveway so as to maintain the continuous stretch of original wall material. Period. And then it says material wall again. Yeah. And I think it should just end by saying stretch of original wall as much as possible. We recognize the wall is going to get punched, but as much as possible. And then on the commission comment at the bottom where it talks about the elevations, applicant should correct the direction of the elevations on the plan. I think we should add the elevation facing Islay is the south elevation so that they don't get, I know it's confusing to some people, and that way it will be very clear. Then on page 8,
Item 6.
Page 8, item comment number 2 of the motion. It says, study moving the garage back to make it less visible from the street. I think that was a comment that somebody made. One of the commissioners made that comment, and the applicant then returned and said, we can't move it back because there's a tree in the way, the big jacaranda tree. We didn't want to go under that drip line. So I don't know if that's an appropriate thing in there. It seemed to me, my recollection was the tree was in the way and the garage was back as far as it could be, unless we want to push that garage under the drip line.
Or just chainsaw the tree out. Take care of it that way. Oh, I'm sorry. That's
Mr.
inappropriate.
So that's for the commission to.
Commissioner Mahan has the floor.
Yeah. So I question that comment number 2 should be included in the motion.
Commissioner Rios, you had something to
Well,
add?
the word study can be done. It's not a definitive answer to the problem one way or another.
How about studying moving the garage back to make it less visible from the street while still protecting the existing tree?
Okay. And then my last comment is on page 9. On the motion, item 7, provide an articulation of the proportions of the building where there are setbacks to feel more massive in order. I just don't understand what that sentence. I don't understand that sentence, and I don't know what. I think it may have been generated from a comment that I made where I asked that the door at the big elevator door be set back so that the jambs are exposed and it gives this sense of massiveness, as you would see at the Libero Theater. But I don't think this sentence says
Would it work to say provide an articulation of the proportions to be more consistent with the detailing found in El Pueblo Viejo Landmark District?
That's fine.
So is that okay?
Well, it helps, but specifically,
Setbacks.
the comment was that the doors be recessed so that the jambs express the massiveness. When doors and windows are recessed, they always express massiveness.
So why don't we just say that? Let's just cross it and say that.
It doesn't say that.
Let's just cross the whole thing out and say that, because I think that that is what it was supposed to be about. So let's just say that again. Elevator doors are to be
And windows
elevator, well, if there are any, elevator doors and windows.
And building
are
windows.
to be recessed so that the jambs express the massiveness of the structure.
Okay, did you get that, Ms. Feliciano?
And then on item 12, the wood plank doors are preferred, I think, at the elevator tower. I don't think we have wood plank doors in other places.
Correct.
And then on item 13, it says the planter proposed along the east elevation should be white cast stone to blend in. I didn't think the planter was white cast stone. I thought the white cast stone was around the big entrance. Was the planter also white cast stone?
I don't know. I wasn't here.
I didn't remember that it was. I remember asking about what was the molding.
How about the planters proposed along the east elevation should blend with the building?
Period.
That's okay.
That'd be fine.
That's okay.
And can we go back one?
Thank you.
Commissioner Winnick?
Back on 12, I think actually it was for the elevator door and the loading doors adjacent to it.
Yes.
I think we
Both
just
of
want to
them.
add that.
Doors
Yes.
and loading doors.
And loading doors, and that would take care of that.
Commissioner Schallenberger?
So back to page 8. I recall an item that doesn't appear to be on the any of these 11 items. Maybe there should be a 12th. The applicant, I recall, didn't have proper elevations in the cross section and the elevation drawings. There was adjacent grade, first floor, second floor, floor-to-floor heights, and there was some question of how that was to be determined, that perhaps it was a little misleading, frankly, as to what the overall height and massing was going to be of the building, and it was important that those dimensions are shown. So I'd like that on the record so that when they come back, those things are shown.
So,
And in fact, it was said and discussed.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's not that we're adding something, it's just that something got left off.
Right. And then on page 9, back to the museum, item 5 in the motion, I don't think the rectilinear entrance is the right, I think a rectilinear entrance, because they still have options that they're working through. There were a few different rectilinear options presented.
So that should be a rectilinear entrance for the east wing at the Library Avenue
Right.
Plaza is preferred.
And item 9, maybe a better phrase for the word belt should be parapet cap or cornice or something to that effect. I'm not really sure what a belt is.
A belt. Well, Mr. Chair, I agree that the cornices should be included in that, but the belt courses are details that are below the cornice that run around the building.
I don't recall that being the discussion. I thought it was up at the top at the parapets.
No, it
No,
was
it's below.
both. They were both. They both seem to be too delicate.
Okay. Okay.
so just, I think, cornices and belt
Yeah.
courses.
And biblical,
Okay.
of course.
Okay, so that should read cornice and belt courses should not be too delicate.
Right. And item 11, I don't know that the elevator tower building should be simplified. I thought it was more in terms of there was the splayed windows that were not preferred, or the splayed grill, recess in the wall. I don't know if it was the building itself that's just one element of the building, the tower. So
And it was-
I don't know. Maybe it's applicable, but the point is, I thought there was some more specific direction, especially with the splaying of the window sills.
That's correct.
Well, it also sounds like it's a separate building.
Right.
Take out the word
That's
How
why
about
not.
the elevator tower detailing should be simplified?
Sure.
So strike the word building and replace it with detailing?
But on that note, again, I think there is an item missing from the minutes here where there was specific discussion about not splaying the window sills to this extent that they were shown. And that was throughout all of the options of multiple facades. I don't know that got into the motion specifically, but it should be in the minutes somehow to give the applicant direction.
Do you have
They were
some-
still in concept stage, so.
Yeah, can I, Mr. Chair, can I?
Commissioner
weigh in? I think what I would say is, I mean, I was one of the ones who commented, said I didn't even like that window that looked like a cyclops, but I think the way this could be covered is we could ask it to be studied, just to continue studying the detailing.
Yeah.
I think would suffice.
And we'll see the next round, that's fine.
Okay, so the elevator tower detailing should continue to be studied and possibly simplified.
Yes, that sounds good.
I have a question.
Commissioner Murray.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question on the same page, number 9. The belt courses should not be too delicate. What does that mean, too delicate? Because it needs to be beefed up like the architecture of the building? I mean, it needs to match the architecture of the building, or what?
Cornice and belt courses should not be too delicate and should be proportionate with the building.
Anyway, I just wanted to clarify that
It's just a matter of talent.
matter of...
Now.
God help you.
Good Lord.
I mean,
It's probably okay to leave it,
Leave
like,
it, okay.
Yeah,
not
I
to be
think
too
so.
delicate, because
I think
Don't wanna-
we all know what that means.
Yeah.
crowd that,
Yeah,
crowd
he
that
did.
up
He
with
knows,
too much.
okay.
Chair?
Commissioner Drury.
Back to those same comments on number 8.
We're going to go get all of them, aren't we?
Well, this just may be a small point. Provide more consistency of the window molding details to be more substantial with a better sense of the massiveness of what?
Of the building.
That should be, maybe just say mass.
Mass of the building.
This would
Okay,
be-
provide more consistency of the window molding details to be more substantial with a better sense of the mass of the building.
Yeah, there we go.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Anybody else? Okay, all in favor as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Suding abstains?
I abstain.
Okay, we have Lavoy abstaining, Arias abstaining, Murray abstaining, Suding abstaining. Suding steps down on item 4. I mean, I'm not stepping down, but I guess if I'm abstaining, it's...
abstaining.
You're abstaining.
Okay,
You're
abstaining
fine.
is abstaining. It doesn't matter if it's on the whole thing or one in specific. Yeah.
Okay. so-
Okay, we're done with that.
So moved.
Next item is consent calendar.
Oh, we found his. Mine's still a mystery, but at least you got yours. Mine could be on the floor too, right?
Do we have a quorum on the minutes?
Sure.
1, 2, 3, 4. We only have 4 on the minutes.
Well,
How's
wait,
that
who's
possible?
missing? But Schallenberg was here.
Yeah, he seconded, and he voted.
No, he stepped out before he voted.
Well, we need him back. We had to wait for him to start the meeting too last time, but we need him back for the minutes.
Yeah. I think it's better that we have the quorum on the vote.
I table the vote.
It vote any other way because I wasn't here.
Bill, maybe you'd like this one. Look,
Okay.
is that a better one?
How about we continue? I'll table
have
the
one.
vote then, and we'll go on to consent calendar since that's on your plate. Ms. Bedard?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The consent agenda for today, June 18th, 2014. Item A, 34 West Victoria Street, was postponed 2 weeks at the applicant's request. Item B, 728 State Street, was granted project design and final approval as submitted. Item C, 621 Anacapa Street, was granted project design approval and final approval as submitted. Items were reviewed by Commissioner Stark.
Okay, do I have a motion to ratify the consent calendar?
So moved.
A motion by Winnick, second by Mahan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. We'll now revisit the approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting of June 4th. All in favor of the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Abstain.
So it's Lavoy, Arias, Murray, and Suding. Abstain. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any announcements or requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals? Anything that the commission should be aware of coming up on City Council, Planning Commission, Parks and Rec?
Yep.
Anytime.
Yes, there is. City council.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, thanks.
Watch the tape. City Council on Tuesday, June 10th, did designate the Santa Barbara Club, the Masonic Temple, and the Unitarian Church.
Great.
We have
Good.
3 new landmarks.
Thank you. And I want to thank those owners for their stewardship and their willingness, for the most part, to do that.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes, and I wanted to say that now the mayor gives them a certificate with a decree of designation that they can hang on their building. It's really beautiful.
Good.
Nice.
Excellent.
Okay. Ms. Bedard, any other
No, that's it.
announcements?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Dury?
I need to leave by 5 o'clock.
Hopefully we'll be done.
And hopefully we can all leave.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Rios.
I have a request for an item to be placed on an agenda.
Yes, you do.
I sent you an email to this effect, and I have had no response from you, and I was not able to attend the last meeting. I am requesting that we have a discussion regarding lighting on rooftops. When we had the Children's Museum in front of us, and the commission was very strict about the amount of lighting that was allowed on the rooftop, and the comment that was made was the view from the Riviera. They were concerned about that. We recently had a hotel which wanted to have lighting on the roof, and that was approved by this commission. So we were inconsistent in our positions of what we do, and I think we should have a discussion. There is also an ordinance on the city books regarding lighting, which goes to floods into adjacent buildings. And we are encouraging more and more people to live downtown. So again, this is something that we should have a discussion on.
Jermaine, yes.
And have consistently, we need to be consistent on what we approve and what we don't approve.
Okay.
And all. So I would like to have this scheduled as soon as possible so we do have a position.
Ms. Bedard, could you please schedule that?
The other thing I would like to say, I would like to thank Nicole Hernandez for the excellent report on the walls that we had the residents come and express concern about, and that you further carried it further and reported back, and I appreciate it, and I'm sure they do too. And now those walls will be somewhat protected from future changes, and that I thank you for that. And I'm sure the residents do too that came to that meeting.
You're welcome.
And we thank the residents as well.
Right.
Okay. Anyone else have any announcements?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Lavoie.
I'm pleased to announce that I was appointed to the Palm Springs Historic Preservation Board last time I missed a meeting. And the city of Palm Springs, when they designate a landmark, give the applicant a very nice metal plaque to stick on their building.
Wow.
Right. Any subcommittee reports? No subcommittees. All right, then we'll move on to the first item of the regular agenda, and that's an archaeology report for 505 East Los Olivos Street. Ms. Hernandez, or Ms. Bedard, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this report was reviewed by Dr. Glassow. He reviewed the report and concluded that the archaeological investigation, 505 East Los Olivos, sorry, get on the right page. Dr. Glassow reviewed the report and concluded that the archaeological investigation supports the report's conclusions and recommendations. Further, the authors addressed all previous comments of the earlier draft.
Does the applicant have anything to add? Okay, we'll go on to public comment. I'll open public comment. One speaker slip, Mr. Kellum DeForest. I can actually just take her back. Mr. DeForest, you have the floor.
Good afternoon. I realize this is just an archaeological report. Is the cross going to get a HLC? Will the cross go before the HLC? It exists, so it's just being moved, but I'm concerned about its impact on the cultural landscape of the important Roland Hazard property which is the property that is now the Mount Calvary. So I would like, if there is not a historic structures report on those two houses and the property, it would be great to have one for the history of Santa Barbara. Thank you.
Ms. Hernandez, did you want to respond to that at all?
It came to consent a while back.
It did.
Yeah, so we can pull the files and see what was said
It was done.
and get back to you,
I
Pelham, and
thought
let you
there
know
was
all the
a little bit of a report on it.
Yeah, there was a small one, but I'll have to pull it and I can send it to you. And right.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest.
I'll email you and we can bring it back if you want.
Now close public comment and go to the commission for any questions or discussion. Okay.
A comment, I guess.
Comment or
I guess I now understand why I took our anthropology classes in college. It's an exhaustive and comprehensive report. The preparer is to be commended, and I would move for acceptance of the report.
I'm sorry.
under discussion. We have a motion by Lavoie, second by Murray. Under discussion, Commissioner
Okay,
Rios.
I would also like to say that this is one of the most complete, accurate, detailed report that I have read, and it really is excellent. And I agree with your theory that as the food supply changes, so do the findings. Excellent.
And she's a scientist, so.
May I go on the record as saying thank you for your appreciation?
It was a really high quality.
Okay, so we had a motion by Lavoie, second by Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Okay.
Welcome. I don't
And you won't take it. You won't take offense if we give them back. Okay. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is another archaeology report for item 2559, Cuesta del Sol.
Was easy.
2559, Cuesta del Sol.
Where's that?
Ms. Bedard.
Yes, Dr. Glassow reviewed the report and concluded that the archaeological investigation supports the report's conclusions and recommendations. However, he adds that the redeposited cultural material southeast of the Education Center ought to be formally recorded as an archaeological site so that a permanent record of their existence is on file at the Central Coast Information Center. Stated as it is, information about the location of these remains exists only in memories of certain museum personnel, and their existence again will once be lost when people retire.
Do you have any public comment? Seeing none. Anything from the applicant? No? Okay. It's not yet your choice. Any discussion or comments? Any questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Murray.
Yeah, I was just glad that that was mentioned because that's what I was going to raise.
Yeah.
So I would like to be sure that it's followed through and that we get some result that it is followed through and for the record and whatever.
Mr. Chair, may I have, we don't recognize you, I'm sorry.
Oh, names for the record, please.
Ann Munns with Applied Earthworks.
Could you turn on your microphone and say that all over again? It's the long button on the bottom there.
Ann Munns with Applied Earthworks.
Thank you. And Trish Allen from Suzanne Elledge Permit Processing SEPS.
Mr.
Planning and
Chair?
Permitting Services, excuse me. I should know that. Commissioner Lavoie.
On the same issue, I'm rather sort of uncomfortable with accepting that some human remains were disposed of in the most convenient location, and that we're just going to leave them there. They were probably, I think they were identified as Native American remains. That the Native people should be contacted and see if they wish to have those remains reinterred at some location that is perhaps more appropriate than just the corner of some building.
If I
Ms.
may.
Munns? Yes, please.
If I may, as part of the background research that we did for this project, we contacted the Native American Heritage Commission, obtained a list of contacts for local Native American groups and individuals. We did U.S. mail, follow-up phone calls, and in some cases emails to solicit their input on the report. And in fact, one of our recommendations in the report is that the museum, as the proponent, continue to involve and engage local Native Americans to ensure that their concerns with respect to those materials are acknowledged and addressed appropriately. In this case, we worked closely with Dr. John Johnson, who's the curator of anthropology at the museum, and he's fully aware of this. We'll work closely with him to ensure that the folks who were there when the remains were uncovered actually participate in recording the remains formally, and that if local Native Americans desire for those materials to be moved, that is also documented at the Central Coast Information Center.
Okay.
So that the record is complete.
I think that satisfies
Thank you,
Commissioner
thank you
Lavoie.
so much for your care.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Lavoie. All right, any other comments?
Question.
Yeah, questions? Either or.
I just want to be clear that you're saying you did outreach, but there was no response?
No, the responses are actually summarized in the
Okay.
report. And we actually expanded the outreach to include the Native American Advisory Committee, who participates in museum management, beyond just the Native American Heritage Commission list, to ensure that everybody was contacted.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I would like to make a
Commissioner
comment
Rios.
that in reading the report, I felt that you were very sensitive to this issue and handled it correctly.
Thank you. We understand the importance to the local Native Americans.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to
accept the
accept
Whatever your motion wants to be. It's your motion.
Bill?
You
Move to accept the
started-
report.
Second.
We have a motion by Drury, a second by Lavoie, and that was to accept the report.
If you're not going to keep
Oh, I'm sorry, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Motion carries.
So we probably passed the motion a few times, right? Just the number of people who.
No, it's fine if you want to keep it. I just
Okay, next item on the agenda is
Are we ahead
item
of
3
schedule?
for 22 West Padre. It's a miscellaneous action item. It's a recommendation to consider adding the vernacular English cottage house constructed in 1930 to the city's list of potential historic resources. And I think I will start off with Ms. Hernandez.
You can put a picture up of the resource.
Could we get the overhead, please?
Yeah.
The meeting's soon.
So I
Once a
found
month
that
on Tuesday.
the property retained almost all of its original features on the front elevation, the streetscape, so it would qualify as a structure of merit for its architectural style as an English vernacular house. It has some of the character-defining features of the style that were popular in the 1920s and 30s in Santa Barbara neighborhoods. Our interpretation in Santa Barbara of this style was uniquely done in stucco, whereas other parts in the country, often this English vernacular was done in brick. And the house has typical massing of the style, principally the side gable with a cross gable, and the roof pitch is steep, and it includes dormers. A lot of other houses in the style do include dormers in their original buildings, and it also has the common verge boards on the roof line. So I do recommend that this building be added to our potentials list as an eligible structure of merit.
Thank you. Mr. Becker, did you have anything you'd like to add?
We have just completed a remodel of this, mostly not adding anything, but just changing the bathroom around. But in the process, taking away some 70s windows and doors and bringing back windows and doors on that back addition to make them match exactly the windows that were there originally. At great expense, I must say. But
It always is a little bit
yeah.
more expensive.
So we've made the back of it now look much more the way they did a nice addition. Just one little
jog coming straight out. And they did it in a way that you would hardly ever know that it was an addition. They just happened to do it in 1978, and they did sliding doors and windows. So I kept that addition and then replaced it. So it looks, in the back, far more like it would have when it was built originally.
You put the proper frosting on the cake. Okay, good. Any questions from the commission?
Do you have some pictures of the back? Yeah.
Go ahead.
On the back side of that page, before.
Before and after.
Or night and day?
There's before and after.
The back, I think, shows the before.
Oh, the back. Ah.
So that
Here's the before and after.
This is side by side, so to speak, of the front. Okay. And then this was the rear before the change to this. And we'll definitely get your collie dog in on that picture there. Okay. Any questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Commissioner
You
Mahan.
did not open public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mahan. I need to open public comment. My bad. Any public comment on this project? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and go back to the commission for questions. Mr. Mahan.
Nicole, it's a question to you. This in your second paragraph, the last sentence of your second paragraph says verge boards for large, often decorated half-timber boards at the end of the gable across the country. There's something missing in that sentence.
Yes.
Are typical of the style across the country. Sorry, I will correct that. Thank you.
Commissioner Schallenberger?
Just as far as procedure, is the city the applicant for this agenda item, or this is an adding to the list item, isn't it?
It is, and it's a miscellaneous action item for a project that is being reviewed next.
Right.
But what is the typically
we're not
it is
reviewing the project right now. I don't think.
No, we're not. Typically, it is
three,
the
right?
owner that makes the application because they have to be in concurrence with the request for the potential. All right?
Yes.
Any other questions? Any comments? No? How about a motion?
Motion. Oh.
All right, we're going to separate you two.
I know. Go ahead.
Commissioner
You started
Lavoie.
first.
Go ahead, sir. Commissioner Lavoie, I'm asking you to make a motion.
I move that we add this to the potential list of cities' historic resources.
Second.
And a motion by Lavoie and a second by Arias. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Becker, for your stewardship of this, and your willingness to put this on the potential list. Next item is concept review of 22 West Padre, item number 4. Action may be taken if sufficient information is provided. All right. Do we have any staff comments on this?
Yes, I did not call a structures report on this property or on this project in particular. Usually, if they're around 400 square feet and they're small and
The additions.
Meet our guidelines and Secretary of Interior standards, I do a staff evaluation to the guidelines that would make it meet the standards and do my evaluation, which is the report you have. If the commission does have the option to say that's not enough and can call one if they feel necessary.
Okay.
But I do recommend that that the project does not need a structures report, and it does meet the Secretary of Interior guidelines, so you can go to design review.
Mr. Becker, you have the floor.
Okay.
Please give us a brief presentation.
This is my own house, which I've just moved into, and I've discovered that we need more room, and there is no place you can add on to this house at all in any direction because of setbacks and existing non-conforming, not quite big enough open yard. And so what I am proposing to do is to take the attic, which is fairly tall, and build a second story within it, and not change the roof line. I want to keep the roof line where it is, and then add the space that I need with a dormer on the front and a pair of dormers on the back. And so that's essentially what I'm asking for here.
You want to show us some elevations, please?
Yeah. So this is what it looks like today. And especially on the front is a dormer that steps down from the ridge and is just barely big enough to give the headroom that I'll need. But I think the whole idea was to make it balance this other gable, and I think, to my mind, it actually improves the whole look from the street. There's another tiny little shed dormer that's at the top of the stairs that comes up here to bring light in at the top of the stairs. And then in the back, in order to have a closet and a bathroom, I've done this sort of classic Boise period sort of double dormer. And then facing the west would be a balcony on top. I have a pergola right here already, and it's just putting another balcony on top of it.
Photo there.
Yeah, putting a balcony on top of that pergola with a pair of French doors that matches everything else up there.
Okay.
And that's the extent of it.
All right.
Oh, one little skylight. So, yeah.
And that's facing.
That's facing the back, yeah.
Back, the rear. Okay. I will open public comment. Do you have any public comment on this project? Okay, Mr. DeForest.
Need to separate the. Thank you. Yes, I just was wondering when I saw this, and now I see exactly what it is. And thank you, Mr. Becker. Doing a fine job. I'm just wondering, would the addition of a dormer in the front significantly change the established streetscape? I mean, the look of that building from, was it on Padre Street, has been there since 1930. How much of an impact would a second-story dormer that you see from the street? I don't mind the dormers in the rear that aren't seen by the public, but the public view of this house is important. But it would be interesting to have the Commission's comment on that.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. Seeing no other speaker slips, I'll close public comment, bring it to the Commission for questions. Commissioner Schellenberger, do you have any questions so far?
So just to be clear, there are no proposed changes to essentially other than, I mean, I can see where you're impacting at the additions, but the rest of the house is to remain in terms of the facade.
Yep.
There was one elevation that it looks like, maybe it's just a drafting thing, but the existing north elevation and the proposed north elevation, the vents under the gables there.
I'm sorry, the what?
Vents. North elevation, first floor,
Okay.
over the bay window. It looks to be like those vents are configured a little bit differently.
Let's see there.
In other words, the proposed shows the vents lower than the existing.
That is a mistake if it's.
It appears that in the photograph, they are what's on the proposed.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Jury, you'll have to.
Yeah, I just, you know, it's I'm not an architect, so it's sort of a funny visual because the house is a really nice, modest house, and you know the elevations come at you frontally, so there's no perspective, there's no linear perspective, so it looks much more massive on the plans. I was really pleased to, with the help of Commissioner Schellenberger, understand that there's no raising of the roof. It's just,
right.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Lavoie?
No questions.
Commissioner Revius?
No questions.
Commissioner Murray?
Yeah, I have a question. Is the trellis original?
No, there was something there, the ghost of something, and I rebuilt that in my last remodel.
So now you want to take it out? And
No, I'm going to leave it just where it is,
okay.
and that'll be the floor of
The floor of
that little deck on top.
So those things will be coming out?
No, those-
Okay, the other thing is, could you get away by not doing the dormer in front?
The dormer,
That's
I mean,
the-
there's two dormers. We have the shed dormer and the gable dormer.
That's the essential. That's the essential reason to have. That's the bedroom that I need upstairs. I don't know. It seems like it would be lopsided without it. To my mind, like I said, I think it really is sort of a part of balancing what's there. That right now, when you see it, it's just this big blank space, and I think. Trying very hard not to make it look like a two-story house. I'm trying to make it look like a little English cottage that's sort of been built out for servants or something in the attic, and it's just a cute little dormer that's sticking out. Is
Well, I'm looking at that dormer, and it just seems like the proportion is the same as this window down here. That's just really concerning me. Yeah.
What's that?
The dormer
Yeah,
is the proportion of that dormer.
This dormer here is the same as.
Is not really not. They're similar. The proportion is so close.
well, I have two front windows, and they both have the same vocabulary, and they pretty much play the same game of having operable casements on either side of a fixed window, and so I'm just playing the same game of making this one, the guest room, a smaller version of the living room, and I made this a smaller version of that. So I feel that I'm playing the same vocabulary as they played originally, and I'm bringing the scale down appropriately for the size of the wall that it's in.
Well, I guess I'm thinking dormers usually just have one window, or two small windows. I mean.
Yeah.
So that's not that anyway.
That's a comment.
That's
So
a comment.
we'll save that comment. But Commissioner Winnick, any questions?
No question.
Commissioner Mahan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The not the dormer, not the big dormer, but the little shed dormer. What does it accomplish?
It is at the top of the stairs, and it's also there's a little sitting room there that's going to be pretty dark, and so it allows there to be light at the top of the stairs, and also to bring in some light to the darkest spot of the interior.
Could you point that out in where it?
Right here.
Yeah, but in plan, where is it in plan?
All right.
I see, it's right there. This is the front.
So we're on sheet A2.1.
Yeah. So on the first floor, you can see that you come through the front door, and right where you would expect a stair to be, right by the front door, it comes up. Then on the second floor, you see
Landing here.
there's the window going over near the top of the stairs, and that's where.
Okay.
And that's also adding essential headroom to that. I forgot to say, not just light, but everything in here is a matter of, like, once I set upon myself the idea that I'm going to save the roof, and I've got 2x4 floor joists, and I've got 2x4 rafters, and I'm going to do it. I can do it. I can make it work structurally, but everything is just, I have got hardly an inch to spare anywhere. But so that's part of the reason, is to give that extra headroom to make it work, as well as the light.
Thank you. Commissioner Sharp, any questions?
No question.
Okay. Do you have any comments?
Well, Mr. Chair, just under questions
Yes,
for staff.
Sumner.
What level, it says action may be taken, what level of action can we go?
Approval.
Okay.
If the commission is comfortable with the project, you may make both project design and final approval. He has his final approval submittal checklist completed, so it's at the discretion of the commission.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Sharp, comments?
My only concern is the little dormer at the top of the stairs. I think it, I'm looking at the building section, and I can see where you're gaining some headroom. However, that would continue up regardless, and you gain headroom only at the top riser, and it still works without that. And it just seems like it clutters up the front elevation beyond what it should, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's all. I like the rest of it.
Commissioner Mahan.
I have the same concerns as Commissioner Sharp. However, it may very well be that that little the shed dormer is not really visible very much. The big dormer will screen it as you're coming west on Islay Street. The big dormer will screen it, and then if you're coming uphill, going east on, it may very well be screened out by the large existing roof ridge there. It might be. I would love to see a couple of perspective sketches of this, looking, from the street, moving west and from the street moving east, just to see how this whole thing masses up. As Commissioner Drury said, it's hard. When you look at this thing in elevation, it seems
more massive,
more massive than maybe it really is, and it would be, if Mr. Becker could do a couple of quick sketches up and down, they don't have to be, massing studies. I think that would be really helpful.
Okay.
In terms of making a finding for the size, bulk, and scale is appropriate to the neighborhood, I would feel good about seeing a perspective rather than elevations.
Okay. Commissioner Winnick.
I don't have too much to add. I guess for me, following Commissioner Murray's line of questioning about the front dormer, I think I support the idea that it be a little bit more subservient or subordinate, let's say, to the rest of the structure. So I'm wondering if there's something that could be studied on it to just maybe that'll come up in the prospective studies, that they'll show that it's fine. But I would just wonder about making sure that it's secondary to the main structure. Yeah, the perspective would help.
Commissioner Murray?
Matt, I really appreciate your sensitivity to this house and also trying to get the space you need. But that roof of the cottage is really, to me, is one of the character-defining features of the way it sits up like that as you view it. And that's why I'm just wanting that whatever dormer that has to be absolutely sensitively done. As you look at it from this side down the street, you see that tall gable like this. And then you've got a dormer that is another gable that, it just the sensitivity needs to be done there. And subservient to the other windows, I think, is really the thing. Yeah, usually those cottage, the things you see them in pictures in England, they're just one punch little window. Yeah, it's just, this is more for a larger home, a 2-story home, or, so.
Okay, Commissioner Rios?
I think Mr. Becker knows what we are after.
My concerns have been covered.
Okay. Commissioner, whatever your name is, Lavoie.
I couldn't disagree with you more, all of you.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise, not the first time. The English vernacular is characterized by a lack of logic, a lack of program, and it's very idiosyncratic, and you put a dormer because you need a dormer there, not because you think it ought to be there. So the usual logic of applying preconceived notions to these buildings really detract from them. I think this architect has done a sensitive and appropriate addition to this building. He's deftly handled sort of like the characteristics of this building by half timbering the dormers. That will greatly reduce how they appear on the building. If these elevations had been colored, they would look very different than they do in black and white. And the perspective would probably help them that much more. But I think it's ready for final approval. As it is.
Drury?
I would agree with Commissioner Lavoie. I think that it's a really lovely and well cared for house, a home, and I think all this is very appropriate, and I support it completely.
Let me get Commissioner Schallenberger and then Commissioner Murray. Commissioner Schallenberger, please.
I would concur with the previous two, and also just to say, I think we've sort of glossed over the overarching program that the applicant was up against here. We very briefly talked about the limitations of a smaller site with setbacks and the inability to go in other directions at a one-story level. And I think he's masterfully integrated this massing and this additional square footage into this small footprint. And you know, the reason I asked the question about the action level is I could support final approval here today. Maybe some details on consent. I did look at, for example, the lighting seems entirely appropriate, the exterior fixtures. I didn't really notice how, if there's any mechanical venting issues that I see there's a new fan coil, but I think that's a interior contained item that doesn't require anything other than maybe like a condensate drain. But it looks to me like this project is ready.
Commissioner Murray?
I agree with Bill Lavoie's comment in general, but this is a California Santa Barbara style cottage, which means that it doesn't have those quirky things that he's talking about. It doesn't even have birchboard. It's plastered. There is a clean look about it. And I think that's what I was responding to. And I completely agree with your project. I would applaud you, but I just asking you further to re-study that sense of California Santa Barbara style cottage that we're seeing.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Lavoie?
I'd like to venture a motion to approve the project as presented.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion by Lavoie, a second by Schallenberger. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
You're opposed?
Yeah.
Murray, Mahan,
I haven't decided. I'm really on the fence.
and Sharp. Murray, Mahan, and Sharp are opposed.
May I
Wow.
make a comment?
We're in the
Chair?
middle of a vote, so I have to get the vote done. Abstain?
Mr. Chair?
Oh, just a minute,
I'm
please.
sorry.
Well, he's
No,
allowed to. We can have discussion during. Can we not? Can we have
In the
dis-
middle of the vote.
Oh, okay. We should have
Before the
discussion
vote,
before the vote.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so since you spoke, no abstentions. Okay, so there were two oppositions.
Point of order.
Yes.
The motion was made, but then you called for the vote. You didn't ask for discussion.
This is
I would like to submit. I mean, I'm not opposed to the project, but I think that the commission is here. We're responsible for the single-family design. We're taking their place, and the neighborhood preservation ordinance requires that we make findings of size, bulk, and scale, compatibility with the neighborhood. I think without the perspective, it's not that I'm opposed to this project.
Okay, I think you said what you need to say, and I stand corrected. I should have sensed that there should have been a discussion. So I am going to table the vote and ask for discussion. Commissioner Drury, I think you had something.
It's a
you
question
wanted to-
for the commission. Can we have details go to consent?
Yeah, we could. Commissioner Murray, did you have some more discussion?
No.
And then Commissioner Mahan, some discussion that you wanted to. I think you said it, but now that we're in the discussion,
I've said it. That I think I would feel much more comfortable about voting positively if I saw the perspectives and I felt that I could make the findings at size, bulk, and scale neighborhood compatibility is appropriate.
I think that is a good point. Mr. Mahan, or Mr. Sharp, did you have anything under discussion?
May I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
There's a very unusual situation that I find myself in that, as you know, there's this new energy code that is coming along on July the 1st that I'm trying to make that deadline. My project just barely passed the current energy code, with my little 2x4 rafters that I'm trying to maintain, and all my other little problems. So I need to turn this in to the building department by July the 1st. If the new energy code takes effect before I do that, I probably won't be able to build this. So that's the bizarre situation I find myself in. I'm hoping that maybe because all the people who are looking for perspectives are very experienced and very distinguished architects, that maybe this one time they might be able to maybe imagine a little bit of a perspective here without it having been drawn for them, and give me the benefit of the doubt this one time to do what I have to do. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Bedard, I just have a question, procedural question for Ms. Bedard. This application has been submitted, so the process has been started. There's a master app for it. Doesn't that protect Mr. Becker from having to conform to the energy code for July 1st?
Permit
Okay,
application.
not unless the permit application has been made. Not the master application, but the permit application.
The building permit
Thank you. I just needed
application, yes.
clarification. Mr. Lavoie.
So I would like to amend my motion to make the findings that this project is compliance with the neighborhood compatibility ordinances and conditions, that it does not detract in any way from this historic resource or an historic interpretation, and it is in compliance with all of the city regulations. And to amend the motion, that with the final approval, that the applicant return to the commission for review after final with renderings, perspective elevations from the street. Would that?
I'll second that motion.
No, it would actually be the first seconder that would have to accept the amendment to the motion. Sorry.
Accepted.
So you accept the amendment to that motion. Under discussion, any other discussion? Okay.
I would like to make one comment.
Yes, Commissioner Rios.
And that is, it is very difficult to work with small buildings and current standards and additional
lifestyles.
standards and things like that. And I think you have done a commendable job of preserving something and working with it. And I think flexibility is important. If we stand and prevent it, then we've lost. The city has lost. So I think what you've done is right, and I strongly support the amended motion.
Okay, so, yes, under discussion,
Yeah,
Commissioner
I want to weigh in as well, and I want to take the same tact. I think it's really commendable that you're not building a McMansion and that you didn't build a double-story building, and I think given that, it's like...
This could have been worse.
Well, it's also, this is a very artful way to avoid that, so it's a great precedent for other people to see. And I actually would like to go back to the amended motion and suggest one change to that, and that is not to ask for the prospectus afterwards, because then we're setting up a problem. It's like we either approve them today or we don't. We can't go back after final and then change the design based on prospectus that's been submitted. So, I mean, I appreciate, Commissioner Lavoie, that you were trying to craft a motion that made it easier for everybody, but I think that portion should be taken out because it's misleading.
Okay, so...
Thank you.
Mr. Lavoie, do you want to amend your amended motion?
If I took your recommendation, would I have a positive vote?
Yes, obviously. Yes.
Thank you.
I'm not setting you up.
Then I will.
Wait a minute. Okay.
I'm learning politics.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Then I would re-amend the motion to remove the requirement to return for review after final with perspective drawings. As much as I'd love to see them.
Ms. Feliciano, you understand the motion?
I understand.
So
The details are
That's fine.
I personally think it's sufficiently detailed
Yeah,
for our review.
I do too.
Okay, then, yeah.
So
Final
it-
as submitted.
There's no return.
There's no return.
Final as
deposit, no
submitted
return.
with the conditions.
But the conditions have been added. yeah.
However, we could come there on Halloween night.
I really have a pretty good. No, all right.
Sorry.
Better vote.
So you made the project compatibility analysis findings,
Yes.
or the comments. They're not findings. Okay. So all in favor?
I have not accepted this.
Oh shoot, you're right.
I'm
Is the
kidding.
seconder
What do
okay
I get
with
out
the
of it?
amended motion? You guys are so
Oh,
hard.
we went back to the original, so I do.
Well, with the compatibility.
So that was the only thing that was added, the compatibility. Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. You
Well
have
done.
a project there.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is item. No,
This got covered. I think we're good.
we don't go there. Concept review, item number 5 of 100 block of East Canyon Perdido Street, 1571 segment ID. This is a proposal to revise the street vehicle parking configuration. Could I have some quiet in the room, please? Quiet. Located within the 100 block of East Canyon Perdido for the purpose of adding a new bicycle corral to provide 14 new bicycle parking spaces. The bicycle corral will be 39 feet long by 7 feet wide and is proposed to be in the location of 2 existing vehicle parking spaces. The proposal involves extending the green painted curb 7.5 feet into the existing red zone towards Santa Barbara Street to provide 1 new automobile parking space. Overall net loss is of 1 vehicle parking space. Action may be taken if sufficient information is provided. Please introduce yourselves for the record and give us a brief presentation.
All right. Jessica Grant, City of Santa Barbara Public Works Transportation Planning Section. With me today is Peter Brown, and he is new to the Transportation Planning Section. He comes from a variety of jurisdictions, probably most recently San Luis Obispo and San Francisco area, and we're very excited to have him. In our audience, I also have Laura Yanez, who is the design engineer, and Katie Klein that helped put our landscape and corral perspectives together. So, getting back to Peter Brown, this is the discussion today. We're going to be talking about bicycle corrals, and this is actually, and this will be a pilot program for the city of Santa Barbara. But this is Peter's 27th bicycle corral project, and I wanted to just start off the presentation just defining what a bike corral is for you guys in our audience, and what some others look like in other communities.
Thank you, Jessica. Chair Suding and members of the commission. Not quite sure. Thanks, Jessica. I'm going to run through about 4 or 5 of these just to kind of look at what some other jurisdictions have done. Portland is probably the leader in the country. They have 105 corrals. Here's one from Boston University. You can see the design, the vertical delineators on the outside on the travel lane.
That's design? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Here's probably the simplest one in Milwaukee. Not really any demarcation of the corral. From Queens, probably the one most similar to the one that you'll see today with planters on either end. And then 2 more. Here's San Francisco, which has about 55 corrals now throughout the city in the Mission District with a simple white painted line around the perimeter. And another view from Toronto. So that's just an example of what some other cities are doing in the similar realm.
Anyway. Continue.
Okay, and so our pilot project location is at the 100 block of East Canyon Perdido, and it was at the request of the Canyon Perdido business partners that are located essentially at the corner of Canyon Perdido and Santa Barbara. There's about 10 businesses surrounding the location, right next to Sojourner Handlebars, across from the Presidio is where it's located. Do you want me to run through a couple pictures?
Sure.
Give us an idea
So
of
again, So this is a view from the southwest, and then this is where the corral would be located.
So these lines here
Yes.
are the corral.
Yes, and when we go into the plan package, I actually have some perspectives. Again, this is just looking at the businesses, again, in handlebars. Again, approximate location of the corral here, just looking across at the Presidio.
I know that person. She wasn't supposed to be there at that time. No.
And a view looking northeast.
Towards
again.
Santa Barbara Street,
Yes.
towards the Riviera.
Yes.
You got it.
So this is what it looks like in plan view.
A little blurry. Very
And it's essentially about 38 feet by 7 feet. And we're actually, it is taking the place of one parking space. We're able to make up 2 additional parking spaces. So it's a net loss of 1 vehicular parking space in exchange for approximately 14 bicycle parking spaces. So what are we here today is to get your feedback, because we did show pictures of what other bicycle corrals look like in other cities, but we want to make it Santa Barbara style. And this is what we're here for, the feedback of what our pilot bicycle corral would look like. Again, it's a pilot that we would be for a year term, and then we'd be checking back with the Transportation and Circulation Committee, Downtown Parking Committee for additional feedback. So there's a couple proposals on the table, which would be lining it with sort of concrete planters or a corten steel planter. It's something that we could go around the perimeter of the bicycle corral, or in the perspective that you see right here, we could do planters on either side and then have some bollard or type of demarcation. Doesn't have to be bright yellow. The actual rack that we're proposing is a varsity, it's called Park-A-Bike, and it's the varsity bike dock where you have 2 points of contact. What we would be looking for feedback from the HLC is what color. Should we do it black, or should we paint it Malaga green? And yes, if there's anything else to add, Peter.
And then just one more consideration for the commission would be the spacing. If we were to do a planter on the outside, as you see here, these are drawn so there's very little space. We definitely have the option to do 1 or 2 planters with a lot more openness there, as well as the lack of planters on the outside.
Right. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, that concludes our presentation.
I'll open public comment. I have one speaker slip from Mr. DeForest. Mr. DeForest.
I don't see anybody here from the Trust for Historic Preservation. This corral right across from the Presidio, or practically across from the Presidio, I'm not quite sure whether it's in the in the footprint of the historic Presidio, but I'm wondering if, before this gets approved, I think it needs acceptance by the trust, because a whole flock of bicycles in front of a historic structure will detract from that structure. Thank you.
Okay, and to continue public comment, a list was submitted to me that names the businesses that support replacing one 75-minute parking space with a 15-minute space and adding in-street bike racks. And that did include the Trust for Historic Preservation. He's the CEO, and I believe that's...
Gerald Jackman?
That's not Gerald Jackman's...
No?
No, is that Gerald Jackman?
It's
Well,
gotta be.
Yeah, okay. This one here?
That's gotta be Cheryl Chapman, no?
That's Jackman.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Forensics.
As well as Julienne, the cafe, Sojourner Cafe, Drishti, Frameworks, Jane Deering Gallery, Handlebar Cafe, Three Pickles, Panino, and Say Cheese. So those are entered into public record. We'll hold on to this as original signatures. No, hold on to that, and I will close public comment. Bring it to the commission for questions. Do we have any questions from Commissioner Sharp?
Only, have you looked into how practical Core 10 steel would be in a situation like this?
It's a question for you.
Probably the most honest answer is not yet. I think that we're showing you mostly for aesthetic purposes the different colors and type of treatments we could have. If you talk to the folks in engineering, they might actually prefer a different material altogether since it's a one-year pilot and we're looking to save costs on it. So that is open to discussion and
Thank you.
Commissioner Mahan, any questions?
Yeah, on the how will the planters be irrigated? How is that going to be accomplished?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Mahan, we're not proposing irrigation. Again, it's a one-year pilot. We have the benefit of this being across from restaurants, and we would have a maintenance agreement with the businesses across the street, and we would hope that it would be hand-watered by the business owners.
Thank you. Commissioner Winnick?
Yeah, leftover glasses of
Yes.
drinking water.
There should be no leftover glasses of drinking water. We're in a drought.
Yeah. Okay. The one question I have is this open to I guess I have to be
Everything's
descriptive.
open to discussion.
Right. The bicycle rack, you presented to us that there was a choice of color, but is there a choice of racks also that could be considered? Or are there a choice of racks? Correct my grammar. So if you have other choices.
Quick answer is yes. We thought this one was the most visually unobtrusive rack in the historic district. Our goal is to have a rack that has at least 2 points of contact on there. Another rack choice that we've seen, and I think we showed in the other pictures, is more of a U frame, upside down frame rack. In the bicycle community, everybody has a different opinion upon racks. We do want it to function. Ideally, we want a rack with 2 points of contact so we don't have the issue of the bikes falling over.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Murray?
So you said a one-year pilot program, meaning 1 year it's like a testing it out, and then after that 1 year, then what happens?
Chair Suding, Commissioner, we would go back to the Transportation Circulation Committee and Downtown Parking Committee and HLC again for a check-in. If it's a successful project, it's being well used, then most likely we do want to continue that use. Hopefully it's the one of many future bicycle corrals. But before we do that, we want to test it out. And this was an area where the businesses were very supportive and continue to be supportive. The request came in quite a long time ago. And just due to the lack of resources, we haven't been able to move forward. So we're excited just to hopefully get one in the ground. Thank you.
Commissioner Rios, any questions?
Yes. When you contacted the businesses to talk about the corral, did you show them any of the designs or any of the possibilities, and did they have a preference? Did they indicate a preference? Or did you just ask if they were enthusiastic?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, the quick answer is yes. It was more from a function standpoint. There's a high parking demand for bicycles, and so we have shared the layouts and we have shared what we submitted for HLC.
Okay, that answers the question.
I'm sorry, no. You did show them the alternatives and the
Correct.
type of landscaping, the planters and things like that. Those people who signed are fully aware of it, of the options.
They signed, the later dated is back in 2013 when we were going before the Transportation and Circulation Committee, and we were saying that we still needed to move forward for, they're deferring it to the HLC to help us on the design.
They haven't seen everything. Yes or no?
Yes.
They have not seen everything.
To be clear, Jessica, I sent...
It's a yes or no question.
The answer is yes. I sent this to all the business owners at the same time we submitted the plans.
So they saw all the options and the various things.
I do not know if everyone opened the PDF and looked at it. It was via email.
Did you get any input back from them as to a preference?
Only to hurry up and get it done, not on design.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Lavoie?
Could you please tell me how your materials and design fits into the HLC guidelines?
The short answer, yes, is that's what we're asking for feedback today from the HLC for comments.
That answers your question.
That does answer my question.
Yes, it does. They want your feedback. Commissioner Drury.
Yes. Is there a need for planters? Is that set in stone, so to speak?
No, the planner is not required. From a functionality standpoint, we want it to function as a bicycle corral. How it looks like on the perimeter, we are indifferent to what is there, whether it's a bollard or planter, et cetera.
Okay.
We are completely open.
But it has to be something, some sort of barrier.
We would like to have barriers on the ends because we do abut vehicular parking.
Okay, thank you.
So you say there's a net loss of one parking spot. Is it a 15-minute or 75-minute?
It is 15-minute.
Okay. Is there any opportunities on the other side of the street going toward Anacapa to maybe add another parking space there? That's a really, really busy part of town.
Only if you take out a fire lane.
I did a summary of all of the parking spaces along this block between the post office and Santa Barbara Street, as well as the spaces adjacent to the corner. There's 30 total curbside on-street spaces. So this would change that number to 29. And the business community there is more, from what they've told us, is more excited about gaining 14 bicycle spaces than about losing the one. And I do believe that along with the construction work on Santa Barbara Street, there is one more space that's being added there as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Schellenberger?
Just what other alternates were studied in terms of, especially for this area, for providing bike posts or bike racks that were not out in the street and didn't need some kind of enclosure, for example?
Let me see if I understand the question.
Do you want me to rephrase it?
Yes, thank you.
Was anything else studied as a means for providing bicycle parking that doesn't include the street? Was there any other method of bicycle parking that was studied that didn't include the street?
Yeah. Well, it depends on how you define the term study, but the truth of the matter is there are about 4 hitching posts right here on the on-street sidewalk, and those are pretty much at capacity. And so this is kind of the state of the practice right now. And so, my understanding is that the businesses are excited about having an opportunity to provide a significant amount of spaces in front of their businesses. So, yes, we studied it, and we can and are around the city putting in more hitching posts, but this is an opportunity to do a corral here.
Why did you choose one of the most historically significant areas for your pilot study, whereas maybe it could have gone somewhere else to study, so it didn't have to come to a commission like this? And then come back after it's successful?
It was the owners that were requesting it due to the demand of their customers wanting to have secure bicycle parking.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner
I
Dury?
did forget one. It's 30 feet long by 7 feet wide. So is that the general dimensions of a car parking space?
To be clear, it's currently drawn at 39 feet by about 7 feet. And a typical city standard for a curbside space is 8 by 20. So that's true. And to the previous point, I think to Rob Dayton's credit, who's been involved in this project, he did not want to do anything here at this location unless there was 100% support from all of the businesses as well as the historic trust. So without that, I think that this project wouldn't have gotten here.
But just so I'm clear of myself, 7 feet is what a car would take.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that helped also answer Commissioner Schallenberger's question as to why it was proposed here. Okay, so comments. I'm going to start with Commissioner Schallenberger.
Okay, I think I first want to address the businesses being in support, and I just need to say that doesn't matter to me, frankly. Businesses would be in support of a lot of things that are not sensitive to historic resources, so it may coincide in this case, but it's not necessarily a factor. What I'm concerned with is what we're charged with here is the impact on the adjacent resources. So that said, I'm wondering, this probably is something for staff, doesn't this require some kind of historic sites and structures report or letter at least, or some kind of study?
We can look into it at the pleasure of the commission. I think when you look at it, if there's a car in that spot instead of this, which is what happens now, I mean, that's how they're going to, I think that's how we saw the application when it came in.
Well, just the question that, I mean,
so there's going to be some sort of modern element.
Is that should be, that's something that's, I think, germane. Mm-hmm. So it's just a procedural thing, but it's more important. If you were a business and you wanted to build this privately, for sure you would be having to do that. The city is getting this treatment. I don't know why, frankly. I mean, if you're a private developer, 100% you would have to go through all of the iterations of regulatory review. And I just want to see some consistency there. I'm also concerned with just I know it's 1 year, but it's a permanent structure essentially at this for a year. And the streets, when you have cars, there's fluidity. For a huge portion of the day, say from 9 at night till 7 the next morning, it's empty. So there is some ability, there's some fluidity in the streets that this will not allow for, even during the day. Traffic, deliveries, all these types of things are cut off when there is something solid in place. And I know, for example, if you do a construction project and you want to do staging out in the street, you're limited on the amount of time you can do that for. It's typically about 3 months. And so I'm just not really clear why this seems really out of the ordinary for not only just the city in general, but especially in the historic district. Staging is almost never done in the district. So I'm seeing some comparisons that aren't really, I'm not sure of the word, frankly, but so I also have some concerns in terms of allowable uses, in streets and ordinance issues. I don't know how this is allowable in a traffic parking area.
Well, we can definitely call a structures report on it because of the sensitivity of the area. If it's the pleasure of the commission, that is doable. I think one reason it didn't come through is because it wasn't really one property. And we usually look at when they come through, it's like property for property. This one needs to be reviewed for a historic structures report. But in light of the discussion today, that is something we can do.
Oh, well, okay, so, and then in terms of just the aesthetics, I mean, I don't think that any of the options shown here are really within the guidelines. I'm not sure that it doesn't look like the EPV guidelines were even consulted or studied. So I'm not sure what to do about that other than to say study it and bring that back with some more sensitive materials and colors, et cetera.
Okay. Finished?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Drury.
Yes, I would agree with those comments. I also think that I'd just like to reiterate the idea of putting this project, pilot project as it may be, in this really, really busy corner, right in the heart of El Pueblo Viejo, seems to be just almost perverse. Not perverted, mind you, but perverse. And
I gotcha.
It's an important distinction. And I think that there's been obviously an increase in bike traffic, and I think that needs to be addressed. I would suggest if you have to have it downtown in that area, to go across the street in the 300 block of Cannon Perdido.
No, across Santa Barbara Street.
Across Santa Barbara Street. That's a much wider street, much less consistent traffic, foot traffic, and otherwise. That's just a comment. Thank you.
Commissioner Lavoie?
I'm going to disagree again. I guess it's my day to be contrary. I don't see where the impact of a bicycle parked is less than a vehicle parked there, just in size, bulk, and scale impact on a historical resource. The other thing is we approved all of the State Street improvements all the way up and down that street without ever getting an historical structures report on its impact to any of that. So I think asking for an historic structures report is not appropriate in this instance. It does have an impact on the district. I won't deny that. But I don't think it has the threshold of a potential negative impact to any of the historical resources. And yeah, I think I would agree, though, that maybe you chose the wrong place to do this design. You very definitely did that. There is nothing about what you're proposing that fits the ordinance. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And so I'm not going to say study. I'm going to say reject what's being proposed. You may or may not know, I live in Palm Springs now. Palm Springs just went through this. And in order to come up with a bicycle rack that was appropriate to Palm Springs, they didn't go off the rack. They asked their artistic community, which pales in comparison to this one, to come up with a bike design, a bike rack design. And they vetted it and they reevaluated it, and they came up with a design that didn't please everybody, but it sure looks cool. And while the aesthetic of Palm Springs is easier to match than Santa Barbara, well, we have a very talented artistic community here. Of the proposals that you had shown us, the one that I think fits Santa Barbara most is the one done in New York, Queens. If you were to take the pots and make them terracotta, you would be fitting the ordinance, or even glazed pots of a more Hispanic design. And those particular racks I find interesting aesthetically, and if they were in black or Malaga green, they would be at least a little bit more compatible with the guidelines than the thing that we were shown. So if you were to move in that direction, you would have a much more successful proposal.
No. Sorry, it's for the commission now. Commissioner Rios.
Well, I tend to agree with Mr. Lavoie on what he has said. I wish that you would find another location, not one in such a sensitive area, but it's true, cars and bicycles, they are realities, and there is not much difference between a bicycle parking area versus a car. I think what we try to achieve in El Pueblo Viejo is an atmosphere of what was historic and keep that preserved. Bicycles were not that common during those years when El Pueblo Viejo, the Presidio was done. Matter of fact, I don't think they were at all. But we have to make some changes with the changes that occur in society. And I think Mr. Lavoie has hit upon some things that could be used to soften the impact. I, again, would really like to see it in another location, but that's my opinion.
Commissioner Murray?
This picture is good because it's not cluttered with a lot of things. And
except for the building.
Except, and I'm
New York, Queens.
Actually, the pots. I think if you're driving, you don't expect pots to be in the street. And I think a line or something. But I agree that it has to be absolutely EPV. You just got to read all those guidelines and over and come up with a design that fits the guidelines. Also, if you're going to do that, I guess obviously the ones on the sidewalk will be removed, and you'll have a bigger sidewalk. I agree also that you have a car park versus bicycles. I don't think that is an impact that we cannot handle it in this commission, because it's a mode of transportation. It's more about how it's going to look. I mean, park like this may be not the way to do it. Is this going to be a 15-minute parking for these bicycles, or is it an all day? I mean, because if that area is 15 minutes parking, then you've got to think of something, whether those bicycles are going to be there for all day or for 15 minutes or whatever.
Well, the racks are still going to be there all day.
Well, the rack, yeah, they'll be there. But yeah, but you park your bicycle there all day. You are the only one who's going to be using that parking all day long. I mean, those things anyway. Those are not the concern. But I guess everything has been said.
Commissioner Winnick, any differing or?
Well, I do want to speak a little bit. First of all, I want to support the idea of bike corrals in the city. I think it's a great move. You know, bikes are smaller than horses, which would have been what we would have found in El Pueblo Viejo. They're also smaller than cars, and I think we want to, like, having the street life of Santa Barbara, which the bicycles support and does support the local businesses, I think we should be supporting and figure out how to make that integrate into El Pueblo Viejo as well as elsewhere in the city. I tend to agree with Commissioner Lavoie's suggestion that just having simple pots, and one of the things I really didn't like about the proposal was the proposal that showed the pots all along the planters running the full length in the street, which I found very blocking. So I prefer seeing just planters on the ends and limiting that as much as possible. And anyway, I think looking to the example from Queens is a good place to start. Thank you.
Commissioner Mahan.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Winnick. Generally speaking, I don't see any difference between bicycles and cars in terms of impact in the district. I think bicycles are older than cars I agree that if there's another place that would be, I realize this is a very popular place for young people, and they come to these places. And
Yeah.
But I think it would be appropriate for Public Works to come back with some other alternatives in terms of location, other than just the fact that the businessmen here think it's okay. We might find businessmen other places think it's okay too. On State Street, we designed the newspaper vendors, or whatever you call them, to look like big Spanish cabinets. And I think it's not what you're doing, but it's how you're doing it is the issue. And definitely the two pots work better for me too. It's much more open. I think that the bike racks, whether they're these, they need to be something that is appropriate to El Pueblo Viejo in terms of shape and color and detail. So I'm supportive of the concept, and I think it's how you do it is what's going to be make it work for me.
Okay. Commissioner Meehan, anything to add?
You mean Sharp?
I'm Sharp. I'm sorry. Mr.
Where do I start here? I am supportive of having bike racks in this location. I see here by the plan that the green curbing is 70 feet. That's not 2 cars, that's 3 cars. Also, your aerial pretty well spells that out. And I think that taking 40 feet and leaving 30 could be reversed, and we end up with a smaller amount of bicycles, maybe more efficiently placed, and lose no spaces, according to you, and have 40 to 50 feet of for 2 cars. 40 would be enough. 50 would be more than enough and not lose any cars, and still, through more efficient stacking of the bike racks, end up with the same number of bikes. So I think also that your solution has to be restudied with respect to the guidelines.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Schomburger.
I meant to also comment that it is worth noting that every one of these examples is from a major metropolitan area. Santa Barbara is not that. And specifically, El Pueblo Viejo, our guidelines and the district that it's set up, it's basically set up so that it isn't that and it doesn't become that. So I think whatever happens, there needs to be some sensitivity to that overall theme of what we're doing here. I'm not saying no bike parking. I'm not against bike parking. It's just these are not relevant examples. I mean, there is specifically an attempt to not be a major metropolitan urbanized area. That is essentially what we're doing here. And it's that way for a reason. If you like that kind of area, they're there for you. Santa Barbara is here for you if you like the way Santa Barbara is. So I'm not sure that there isn't some other, underlying attempt to sort of further urbanize the area, but it's not consistent with the district at all. And I mean, the example that's up there, I don't know where it went, but the Queens, one of the reasons it blends in okay there is because of how busy those buildings are in the background. But you put the simplicity of Spanish colonial design against that busyness, and it doesn't work. And that's the same case for all of these examples, especially, I mean, Portland. That would look, I couldn't even imagine that here. That's terrible.
What about the Milwaukee?
The Milwaukee is nice and simple. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm getting at. Is there is a solution that is simplified. We use that word 100 times a meeting, and it's that way for a reason. It's because that's what the aesthetic is here. So the terracotta, options, the colors, the materials. I don't know if it's worth in the street in that corral area, decomposed granite, something to that effect, but some ways to soften and simplify and get more in conformance with the district.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jury?
The only other thing I would say is that if you use those big ceramic planters, they're going to have to be defended from vehicles somehow. They're going to be run into. Somebody coming out of Jimmy's and getting in the wrong car and not knowing how to drive. Speaking of personal experience. So they'll have to be defended somehow with a metal pole or something.
Well, they don't on Brinkerhoff.
There's no Jimmy's on Brinkerhoff.
That's true.
All right, I'm going to try and summarize the comments then. The HLC supports the idea of the bike corral. However, the commission is concerned about the impact to adjacent areas in this location.
Historic location.
In this historic location. Other locations should be considered. The fixed nature of the corral is in conflict with the fluidity of the street. Options shown are not consistent with EPV guidelines. All components of the corral are not traditional and cannot be supported. Racks should be more artistic and traditional. Simple pots at each end, similar to what was shown to the commission in Queens, New York, is preferable to the full perimeter plantings as proposed. Look at more efficient layout with respect to retaining vehicle parking spaces, and a simple solution that is subservient to the surrounding architecture may be more appropriate. I think I got everybody's.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner LaVoy.
Of your comment about fixed and fluidity, how as a designer would I solve that problem? I mean, there's nothing to me a little bit more, although they have wheels and can roll away, but a bicycle is as fluid, perhaps more than a vehicle. I'd much rather run into a bicycle than a car.
I think it's the fixed racks and the structures of the pots and the bollards that would all have to be installed. Those are there 24/7. They don't have the same fluidity. I was trying to incorporate Commissioner Schallenberger's comment about that. I don't know what you would do with that as a designer.
I see it as more a necessary evil. I mean, there is a competition between bicycles and cars. Constantly. And visibility in the cars. And if I had spent a lot of money on a bicycle, I sure wouldn't want a car to back into it. You know, and if you don't make it big enough for someone to see, someone's going to back into it. This is a very busy street, and people pull in and out of these parking spaces pretty quickly. You know, the problem with the design is they're probably better stated that there are too many permanent looking elements.
I was going to try and rephrase that then, saying that the commission has an issue with permanent elements being mounted in the street.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Is that?
I think I'm seeing a nod. I think they understand what that concept is.
It goes to the same initiative. So did you understand that, Ms. Feliciano? We're striking the fluidity comment, and we're replacing it with what I just said, and don't ask me to repeat it.
Mr. Chair? Excuse me. I just want to say that Commissioner LaVoy did issue a rather subtle yet earnest challenge to the artistic community and the bicycling artistic community of Santa Barbara to come up with a design that would be more El Pueblo Viejo friendly. And I think that is a pool of talent that should be utilized, because we will have bicycle corrals in Santa Barbara. And they should be done properly right off the bat and not kind of rethought. And I think that if there's a possibility for the city to issue search for the appropriate design. There's a little bit of money in the coffers at the moment. It may be an idea for a prize. I mean, this is something that is going to come, and it should be done properly.
One of the comments was that the racks should be more artistic and traditional, so get that in there. Commissioner Murray.
I just want to say that really all those comments are really good, and I think the rethinking, it'll be nice if this was at a street where you can have an indentation of the street, so then the bicycles are separate and protected away from the moving cars, and also the end of the day you have a clear street that doesn't have all these all these implements. I think that's my biggest concern, is that and Schallenberger was alluding to that you have this, if there was a kind of an indentation, like where the bus pulls in kind of thing in the street, and if they were there like that, then at least we know that is a corral. It's off the street. People can bike safely, park safely and get out. So I'm thinking maybe there should be a further thought to a place in the city where it would be designed that way, where there is a sense of removal from the street and the...
Okay, we're 15 minutes behind, so I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm going
No, that's fine.
I'm going to call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to continue this. You want a 2 weeks continuance or an indefinite continuance?
Indefinite.
Okay. Yeah.
Give us a month.
Yeah,
No,
indefinite.
it's
That's an indefinite
indefinite.
continuance to study the problem of incorporating the comments that the chair has made and has given to you.
Second.
We have a second by Winnick. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Motion carries.
Yeah.
Unanimous.
We should keep some of these examples, right?
Yeah, I think we'll keep those two.
Okay.
And I am going to suggest a 5-minute recess before the next item.
Okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
We are in recess. Commission of June 18th. If I could have quiet in the room, please. Next item on the agenda is item 6. This is for 40 East Anapamu Street. Project design approval is requested. The project requires findings for tree removal pursuant to Santa Barbara Municipal Code Section 15.24.090. The project was last reviewed on February 12th, 2014. I will read those comments. The motion was continued indefinitely. The proposed plan is accessible, workable, and traditional. The applicant presentation was well done. The restoration of the historic fountain focused on the Faulkner Gallery is appreciated. Research a possible other home for the existing fountain. The treatment of the historic library entrance is appreciated, as is the softening of the corner at Anacapa and East Anapamu streets. The elimination and editing of the landscape is appreciated and effective. Consider tall camellia shrubs to highlight existing architecture. Add significant landscaping at the east elevation against the Museum of Art. Adding significant landscape at the east elevation against the Museum of Art is essential. The dimension of the paseo behind the Museum of Art shall be 10 feet wide, with the 2 feet added to increase significant planting on the museum side, including kentia palms. The amount of concrete is problematic. The design guidelines suggest using tile, stone, brick, etc. Consider significantly reducing the amount of paving, particularly at the plaza. Stone similar to the courthouse was suggested, as well as trees in that area. The lower library plaza seems to still be disconnected from the upper plaza. Continue to utilize and propose the zigzag paving pattern as shown in a way that relates to the existing in the library, perhaps in a different material. Provide more information on the drawings, such as paths of travel, bicycle parking, light fixture locations, etc. Show details of bicycle parking. Refrain from using the luminaire light fixture style found on State Street. The design solves visibility problems which is a commendable improvement, although it will not solve social problems, nor does it intend to. Security will always be a concern. This motion was made by Winnick. It was seconded by Mahan. It was an 8-0-0. Drury was absent. And I believe we have Mr. Aguilar here to speak. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, good afternoon. My name is Mark Aguilar. I'm the project planner for this project. The two projects that you have coming up are first the Library Plaza project, followed by the Santa Barbara Museum of Art. Both project teams have been working together with some success to address, among other things, placement of a new electrical transformer above ground, as well as to coordinate the landscaping along their shared boundary, which is along the museum's eastern elevation. In recent visits, the HLC has asked to see more landscaping affiliated with the museum's project. However, the shared property line is really only about a foot or 2 feet away from that museum building, and that limits their ability to control what type of landscaping is placed there. For their part, the library project has been developing a plan that generally seeks to improve sight lines and preserve as much surface area opportunity as possible to meet their stormwater management Tier 3 requirements, which are still being developed. The design that you're going to see before you here is responsive to the HLC's comments back on February 12th. It's been supported by the Street Tree Advisory Commission and the Parks and Committee and the Parks and Recreation Commission, with a specific acknowledgement for what you'll see is a couple of trees framing the central mass of the museum's eastern elevation. That was added at the request of the museum. The landscape plans that you're going to see in this item and the following one, the subsequent one, don't exactly match. They're very close in design. In order to make the informed decision, we would remind the Commission that you have the ability to table your discussion of this item if you wish to proceed and hear a presentation by the Art Museum, or you can take action if that is your desire, and then hear the museum's presentation and then come back and reopen the item if you'd like to make changes based on what you've seen from them. The library project only requires HLC approval, whereas the Art Museum will be going to the Planning Commission for development plan approval. And lastly, if the HLC is inclined to grant the requested project design approval for the library project, staff asks that the Commission make one or more of the tree removal findings pursuant to the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Please state your name for the record and give us a brief presentation.
Hello, I'm Scott Love. I'm the Library Services Manager. I manage the Central Library, and Director Irene Macias regrets that she was unable to make it today. She was called away on a family matter at the last moment. I have here with me Regula and Doug Campbell, and thank you. And they will be making the presentation. We're pleased to be here in front of the Commission again today with an updated plan of the Library Plaza Improvement Project. And we are excited about the prospect of creating an open, accessible, and safe space, and having a space that's flexible for reading, lunches, contemplation, and also opening it up for community events and celebrations. Since the library and the Museum of Art have many common goals and needs, the library has continued working with the museum to create a space that can meet the desires of both organizations whenever possible, and thereby create a space that is best for the entire community. In addition to working with the museum, we've been working with our other neighbor, La Arcata. We believe they're very pleased with the designs we've come up with, which highlights the visibility and accessibility through the Library Plaza Avenue entrance onto their property. At our last presentation to the Commission, we received overall praise from you. Thank you. We were asked to consider a number of changes, and today the Campbells are prepared to review those changes from the February 12th meeting and show changes based on all your suggestions. In addition to the changes the Commission suggested, these plans do have some changes around the La Arcata sculpture, the Caro sculpture, which help to highlight it and make it more visible also. And we hope to receive the project design approval. And let me turn this over to Doug and Regula.
Introduce myself. I'm Mr. Chair. Members, I'm Doug Campbell, Principal Landscape Architect, Campbell & Campbell.
And I'm Regula Campbell, Architect with Campbell & Campbell. I will give you representing the city's team, I'll give you a brief PowerPoint which shows our responses to each of the HLC's comments that were given to us in February. I won't read all of these since the chair has already read them.
Mr. Chair, could I interrupt just 1 minute? When we have so many conditions that are placed on a project or suggestions, it would be very helpful if we had copies of them.
Oh.
To follow along instead of just being read. Yes. It would be really helpful because.
Could you print out a copy of the?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Certainly. I want to be able to follow things.
Or just make copies of that sheet right there, please.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Aguilar.
The Campbells actually have taken the opportunity to actually reflect the minutes of the meeting item by item in their presentation. So you'll be able to follow along, but I understand that copies would be helpful in hand.
Okay. All right. Continue.
Okay. As you can see, we've listed the comments in their order. Since the chair has already read them, I will just talk about the one that we'll respond to right here on this particular image. You see on the right 2 illustrative sketches of the proposal that we presented in February. And here the salient one, in which requires a response, is research a possible other home for the existing fountain. That fountain was donated and is maintained by La Arcada. The city will be working together with La Arcada to find a new home for that fountain. Number 5 was consider tall camellia shrubs to highlight existing architecture. You see in the photo a photo of the east facade of the historic library with the historic plantings in front of it. They are composed of camellias, the boxwood hedge, agapanthus, the turf, and of course there's a beautiful sandstone wall running along the sidewalk edge. In the construction documentation phase, Campbell & Campbell will include long-term maintenance specifications to appropriately maintain the historic and proposed plantings of the library's landscapes. These specifications will include pruning techniques to lower the overall height of the camellias along the eastern edge of the historic library to ensure their ongoing health, as well as to increase visibility for views to and from the library. Our firm is familiar and have worked on a number of historic landscapes, and we have included these long-term specifications to ensure the health of the plantings and the design intent over the long run. 6, adding significant landscape at the east elevation against the Museum of Art is essential. You see our new section elevation at the bottom of the screen. This section is taken through Library Paseo. On the left is La Arcada, on the right is Anapamu Street, and we're looking towards the Museum of Art. You can see how we've added 4 Kentia palms. Kentia palms thrive in this particular location. High white walls on an east-facing or north-facing exposure, as you see at the Santa Barbara Courthouse just across the street along Anacapa Street. There is a kind of signature element to downtown Santa Barbara with dramatic foliage highlighted against white walls. An understory planting of 2 flowering plants, the clivia and the Mexican shrimp plant. The clivia blooms in the winter months, shrimp plant in spring and summer, and also ruscus, which is used right now at the corner of the Paseo along Anapamu Street, and aspidistra. All of these are resource conserving, especially drought adapted. They're all culturally compatible and will do well in this location. 7, the dimension of the Paseo behind the Museum of Art shall be 10 feet wide with a 2-foot added to increase significant planting of the museum side, including Kentia palms. These are 2 illustrative sketches which show how we have done exactly that. We've reduced the width of the Paseo to 10 feet. That allows us something very important. It allows us to remove the bollard that was in the center of the Paseo, so we don't no longer have to worry about vehicles intruding on the Paseo. We've added the 2 feet to the museum side, to the planter on that side. If you recall, we took away the high walls around the planters because we want to infiltrate as much runoff water into the site as possible. and also to open views. So we have this medium-sized ground cover, essentially planting, and then the tall Kentias. You can see the view down the Paseo on the left and up the Paseo on the right. 8, the amount of concrete is problematic. The design guidelines suggest using tile, stone, brick, etc. We have added a sandstone border around the Library Plaza. This is similar to the sandstone border or the stone border around the forecourt of the downtown post office. You can see the photograph there. At the post office, the infill on the interior is small granite cobbles set in concrete. Subsequent to February, we've met with neighbors, we've met with other institutions to coordinate our project, and also with various city departments, including Creeks. Creeks has urged us, and the city policy says we should infiltrate as much runoff water on the site as possible. So we looked for places where we could add permeable pavers wherever possible. As we had already stated in our previous presentation, we have permeable pavers in the forecourt of the library and Faulkner on the north, on the south, in front of the historic library, in the bike parking areas, one along Anapamu Street, one in Library Avenue Plaza. And what we've added is permeable pavers in Library Avenue Plaza. All of these will be the stepstone pavers of several colors. The paving pattern, even though they're made up of smaller pavers, certainly not as big as the pattern that you see, the paving will be of a larger scale in the working courtyard, the working plaza of Library Avenue Plaza, and at a smaller, more intimate pedestrian scale in the forecourt areas. 9, consider significantly reducing the amount of paving, particularly at the plaza. Stone similar to the courthouse was suggested, as well as trees in that area. We looked carefully at this particular comment. We went back to looking at the size and scale of Library Plaza, noting that the goal was to provide a workable space, a usable space for art openings, the seed exchange, all sorts of events that happen now with the library and the Faulkner, as well as book signings and school class gatherings, etc. We looked again at the goals and guidelines that have been set by various groups, committees, including the public participation workshops, city departments, fire and police, neighbors wanting visibility and open view lines. And the HLC itself had asked us to open views to the 2 landmark buildings, the Faulkner and the historic library. So we looked at all of those issues. We looked at what the size and the feel, the experience of Library Plaza will be. In this case, we're quite lucky. There's a lot of the pieces that make up the 3-dimensional volume of what will be Library Plaza are in place already. You see the size of the proposed plaza and the existing lawn are the same dimension, 50 feet by 65 feet. This dimension is taken from the outside walls of the planters beyond the trunks of the Indian hawthorn that you see. Library Plaza will be raised up about 1.5 feet. Those interior walls on those planters is about 2 feet high. So you can see it'll be raised up, and how once the planters are removed and the low blocking vegetation is removed, how the Faulkner is going to be a presence on the plaza. You can see that from that outside wall to the Faulkner, that's all planting area, a much wider planting area than exists now. Also, the historic library will be an important presence on this courtyard, as well as the eucalyptus trees straight ahead. To the left, once we remove the Indian hawthorn, we'll be able to fully see the existing coast live oaks, and of course on the right, the Senegal date palm. We looked at similar types of open courtyards in the El Pueblo district. The courtyard of the Casa della Guerra, you can see 72 feet by 83 feet is quite a bit larger than the proposed library courtyard. This courtyard is, of course, formed on 3 sides, as you all know, by a 1-story building. It has only 2 significant plantings, any plantings at all, which is 1 medium-sized coast live oak and a large olive tree. We looked at the courtyard in the El Paseo, and that dimension is narrower than the proposed library plaza, but quite a bit longer, 40 by 80 feet. These buildings are more to the scale of the historic Faulkner and library, but of course they're right up against the edges of this courtyard. The significant trees in the El Paseo courtyard are citrus trees, so they never really reach a very large size. We looked at these existing specimen trees that surround the plaza. As I said, the 2 grand California live oaks, whose will much more be honored by this courtyard with open views of them from either side. The landmarked lemon-scented gums, and the Senegal date palm, which is now hidden, which is on the corner of the Faulkner. This is a beautiful, romantic, sculptural form. And we have added trees in the planting around the courtyard. 2 olive trees on either side of the axial connection to the historic library to call out that axis, and a Platanus racemosa, a western sycamore, to shade the plaza, especially in the summer. And you see the photograph is taken of Platanus racemosa right across the street from library parking structure on Figueroa Street. It's in a very small planting area. It's a very young Platanus, and you see how tall it is. To comply to the HLC, we added, we enlarged this Platanus. We're going to propose a multi-stemmed instead of a single trunk to give more shade in the plaza and to kind of balance with another native tree to the sycamore, to the oak trees. As you know, those 2 often grow together in the wild. They also provide habitat in downtown Santa Barbara. 10, the lower plaza seems to still be disconnected from the upper plaza. You see in the top photograph a view looking towards the library lawn, down towards Library Avenue Plaza. That photograph was taken on the Cinco de Mayo celebration that's held in Library Avenue Plaza by the Museum of Art. Barely see over the vegetation and walls the canopies of the structures that the Museum of Art has set up in the plaza below. So views are really blocked. In the illustrative sketch below, you can see how we've opened up these views, how people below in the plaza below, Library Avenue Plaza, will be clearly visible from activities going on in Library Plaza. We also intend to use the same, as I said, a family of paving materials, of site furnishings, of plant material that will connect the 2. So we think this visual connection is the strongest connection. Here, looking again from existing Library Avenue Plaza up towards the library lawn, you see the lawn itself is not at all visible. There's a sliver of view open to Anapamu Street and the Granada parking garage beyond. We are opening this view up from Library Avenue Plaza to Library Plaza so that you can clearly see activities taking place in Library Plaza. This view, opening views were very important to all the groups we talked to. 11, continue to utilize and propose a zigzag paving pattern as shown in a way that relates to the existing in the library, perhaps in a different material. Again, we will be rendering this zigzag pattern in a different size of paver, but still the same permeable pavers. So we have a family of pavers, and again, a wide sandstone in ashlar paving border around Library Plaza. 12, provide more information on the drawings, such as paths of travel, bicycle parking, light fixture locations, etc. Show details of bicycle parking. These two diagrams show the existing paths of travel and accessible areas, existing and proposed. On the left is the existing. Essentially, the path of travel starts on the sidewalk outside the south entry of the library, travels east on the sidewalk along Library Avenue, northerly along Anacapa Street sidewalk, westerly along Anapamu Street, and up the shared walk to the entry that's shared by the library and the Faulkner Gallery. There is also accessibility down Library Paseo, but it ends at that point as Library Avenue Plaza, Library Avenue, the south entry to the library, the forecourt to the Faulkner, the bike parking at the corner of the Faulkner, the fountain courtyard, and library lawn are all not in compliance with present ADA laws and ordinances. So as you can see from the diagram on the right, we provide universal access from the ADA parking spaces inside the library parking structure. We move northerly across Library Avenue, where we have a dedicated vehicular roadway and pedestrian paseo. Pedestrian paseo goes up and down, of course, westerly, down into Library Avenue Plaza, which is entirely accessible, allowing accessible entry to the eastern entrance to the Art Museum, to the northern entrance to La Arcada, to the lower entry to the Faulkner Gallery, the staff entry for the library, up the Paseo to the staff entry, the proposed staff entry for the Art Museum, up and down the Paseo, of course, into Library Plaza, across Library Plaza at 2 points to connect to the walkway to the forecourt and to the entry of the library. So we have universal access throughout. We feel very fortunate that we were able to provide this throughout the project. The grading is done to the ½ inch, I can assure you, in order to get this access to all these points. These are all fixed points, and it's a quite sloping site. Here's the site furnishing diagrams. We show bollards, we show light fixtures, bike parking racks, and the trash receptacles, trash and recycling, sorry. You can see the bike parking and the trash and recycling receptacles are those that are approved for El Pueblo Viejo. These photographs are taken of existing trash container and bicycle rack on the library site today. We also have two types of bollards. We have one more workaday bollard to protect the bike parking. Two of them will be placed in front of the bike parking in Library Avenue Plaza. And then the second bollard is at the corner where the intersection and the division between the pedestrian walkway and the vehicular roadway down Library Avenue, right there at the south entrance of the library. We intend to use a very simple sandstone monument at that point, because that's far more visible to the public, to everyone coming into the parking structure, etc. 13, refrain from using the luminaire light fixture style found on State Street. You see our design sketch on the left and our lighting engineer's drawing taken from the sketch on the right. So 14, the design solves visibility problems, commendable improvement, although it will not solve social problems, nor does it intend to. Security will always be a concern. And that's the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. I tried to do it as quickly as I could.
All right. I'll open public comment. The first member of the public to speak is Callum DeForest. Next will be Eric Kelly. If Eric Kelly could come up to the front row and get ready. We need to retire.
Thank you. This looks very nice. I hope you can approve. You will feel able to approve it. It solves all the problems, I think. It would be nice to put some more palm trees or even possibly another kind of tree, another species of tree against, in the area between the plaza and that blank museum wall. Maybe the Campbell could come up with some other than the Kinka palms, but they certainly work. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Eric Kelly, followed by Viet Cong. May have bastardized that one.
Okay. Sorry, I'm right here.
Hello, my name is Eric Kelly. I'm the owner of the Book Den, so I've been a neighbor of this plaza for 35 years now. I was involved in some of the earlier incarnations, stakeholder meetings and so on, and so I've been following this for a while. I've also been essentially also a user of that plaza. I've also been a user of that plaza because I was involved with I was on the board of the Book and Author Festival, and we used that plaza on one occasion. Spaces like these are very important to the community. In fact, there's very few spaces that really can serve the purpose of hosting an event like the Book and Author Festival. The nearby parking of the Granada Theater makes this a particularly desirable location as compared to, say, De La Guerra Plaza and some other things. So I'm very much in support of the project the way it's been envisioned. I think it will provide a much safer, more useful space for the public to enjoy. I think the changes to traffic flow will also be very important. I like the fact that I think I will be able to point to the library door from my door and have people see it, because that is a very common question we get. So, and this has been, many years in the works and so on. Obviously, the demise of the RDA was one of the stumbling points. But I urge you to approve it and get building it, because we look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Ms. Kong, followed by Lee Williams. If Ms. Williams could come up to the front, please.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's Ike Kong. I'm Assistant Director and Chief Curator at the Santa Barbara Museum of Art, and I'm here on behalf of Larry Feinberg, our director. He unfortunately was called away to jury duty. Hopefully he was not selected. But he asked that I express our strong support for this project. As you probably know, we've been collaborating for years now with our colleagues, and we're very excited at the prospect of even greater collaboration. We're very grateful for the openness of the design, which we think will really enhance community project and interaction, especially as we already have it, but even more so. We've already got established programs with our education department and the library, and I think that this design is actually going to enhance our audience experience greatly. So we're very much in support of it. We're also extremely grateful to our colleagues at the library for so gracefully accommodating our needs, including the location of the new transformer above ground. And I know that was a last-minute addition, so we're very grateful for that. We're also very grateful for their willingness to allow us to program along our eastern wall with the hope that we might provide nighttime, for example, entertainment, perhaps project films. So we're very, very grateful to their accommodation using plantings that won't interfere with that possibility. But overall, we're extremely pleased and very grateful to you for moving forward with this project, and we certainly hope to come to a happy fruition very quickly now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kong. Ms. Williams, followed by Elizabeth Bowman. Elizabeth Bowman's left. I have written comments from her. So, Ms. Williams.
Okay, I'm Lee. I work at the Central Library, and I live across the street. And there's just a few things I want to say. One is I'm so impressed with the changes in the walkways. Like right now, that walkway along the art museum is 6 feet wide, and at busy times, it's doing the hokey pokey to get 10 feet's going to be great.
Good.
And also, as you know right now, when handicapped people or the elderly seniors park in the library parking lot, they have to go all the way around like they're second-class citizens. And I love the changes in the back that make it ADA compliant and really, really beautifully functional. Second thing, I am thrilled to pieces that those stupid junipers are going to stop blocking one of the most gorgeous architectural features in all of Santa Barbara. yay. And then on the plaza, I know there have been some concerns about there being that much pavement, but as Mr. Kelly said, it just opens up so many social and artistic possibilities. And it is right now at the library, the Faulkner is constantly busy. So we would have an indoor Faulkner and an outdoor Faulkner. And I think in terms of that as an asset to the community, it is well worth having that much pavement. If you want grass, you can go across the street to the courthouse. And of course we do. But that would be a huge asset to our community. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. I will read Elizabeth Bowman's comments into the record since she had to leave early, or she had to leave before we got to public comment. This is on behalf of the Friends of the Library. We support the Library Plaza plans as they enhance the city landmark affected. We are keenly interested in keeping the library safe, accessible, and welcoming, and feel the plans accomplish this, as well as provide needed space for popular programs held at the library. All right, having no other public speaker slips, I'll close public comment and bring it to the commission for questions. Commissioner Sharp, do you want to start with questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Mahan?
No questions.
Commissioner Winnick?
Well, and I think maybe Peter Main, I saw that there were bags that looked like samples. I would like to see the samples that represent the paving, because that's what my biggest questions are relative to. Thank you. So please, if you can, I'll ask the question. What are the paving materials?
This is a so-called Cal Arc paving, a product of the Stepstone Company of Southern California. Traffic compatible, vehicular traffic compatible permeable unit paver.
These pavers come in dimensions that are square or rectangular, and we can request, we've been working with Stepstone many times, and we can request different sizes so that we can achieve the kinds of patterns we want. They're not the interlocking pavers, which we do not think are appropriate for this downtown area.
So let me ask another question. You were proposing something that would be herringbone pattern.
Yes.
Which one of these materials was in the herringbone?
Because we need to use permeable pavers as much as possible throughout the project to comply with the needs of infiltrating runoff on the site.
Yeah, I got all that. I understand that part. Okay, thank you for showing
the
me.
cast-in-place concrete and, of course, the Santa Barbara sandstone.
Which will be used on the slope walkways and where we enlarge the sidewalk to match the existing sidewalk as much as possible.
And where is this being proposed?
That's the sandstone. That's an example of the Santa Barbara sandstone we'll be using in the ashlar pattern in various colors and tones around the plaza, Library Plaza.
On horizontal surfaces.
Correct. On the vertical surfaces for the stairs, the stairs will be concrete. We're finishing them as the original Faulkner fountain, that type of concrete finish, which is the best we can achieve really now, is with a sandstone, blasted sandstone, to give that kind of grain to it, like was done at the time, so that it's that softer look that it contains more shadow to it, really. We'll be also using sandblasted concrete in various amounts of sandblasting just to give some different pattern to it on the walkway up to the library and the sloped walkway on up to the library. It's like the pelt on, it reads like the pelt on suede that you brush it one way or another. It's very recessive. It's not a huge difference. Just the shadow, the sunlight does it. It also makes it more non-slip, of course.
Any other questions, Commissioner Winnick?
The only thing I'm confused about is, I heard you say that this, which shows up on screen, the old fountain.
Yes.
That material was previously concrete.
Poured in place.
But that you're going to replicate it using limestone?
No.
Okay.
Sandblast.
Thank you, fine.
The only sandstone.
You don't need to go around.
Is around the border.
I'm done. Thank you.
Commissioner Murray.
No, I don't have questions.
No questions.
Commissioner Lavoie.
No questions.
Commissioner Drury.
Yes, I have a procedural question. I wasn't here for February 12th, so I'm asking for your indulgence if I may comment. I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Schallenberger.
Can we see the color site plan on screen?
Do we have a color site plan, or is that on the?
Oh, yeah.
I'll move this off.
Look, there's the plaza.
Oh, you know what? People at home never saw these. Should I move them over? No, we're off screen. Okay, doesn't matter.
Zoom on the Paseo, please.
On the Paseo itself?
Right.
Oh,
you can't zoom. It looks like the Paseo is red, terracotta-ish color.
No, the Paseo will be concrete.
I'm sorry, the plaza. I used the wrong
Oh,
word.
the plaza. No, it's just to show a variation, just to bring it out. The plaza will be these stepstone pavers.
Gray.
The stuff?
Gray and
Yes.
white. Okay.
Yeah, varying tones of this gray and white. This one has some buff in it because there'll be sandstone on the border.
Okay, thanks.
I had a couple of questions. If we could go back to the overhead, please. It's
Sorry.
Staff, if you could go
I
back to the
can't do
overhead,
it.
What you're proposing in the sandstone here is different than what you're showing on the sample sheet. This is a flagstone,
Right.
whereas that is a sandstone.
We propose sandstone rather than flag, but varying colors of sandstone,
Okay.
similar to the flag.
Because it's going to be hard to get sandstone in that kind of, well, that's a comment, sorry.
Right.
And then the question is this permeable unit paver system that you're showing in this photograph the same as the sample?
Yes.
Okay. And is there an installation in Santa Barbara where this material is used?
I don't know if there is one in Santa Barbara.
That's more knowledge.
Oh, when we spoke with Creeks, we talked about the permeable pavers at, for example, Mackenzie Park, but those are interlocking pavers, which we don't think they're appropriate. So we looked for the finest quality permeable pavers we could find. We think that downtown warrants that. We hope to work with Stepstone and look at different medium, so it isn't so white, really. Yeah, and so that it is more in keeping with the quality of the sandstone.
Okay. Then just last question, if I can get it over far enough. No. I'm looking at the lighting. These proportions are correct here?
Yeah,
So there it is. So that Lumiere is about half as big as the human.
You mean twice?
Yeah.
3.6.
Total from
Yeah. So a human is 6 foot.
Yeah.
So that's about half as big as a human.
Yes.
I understand. All right. Comments. Start with Commissioner Schellenberger. Any comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, in I think it was item 5 of the last review, that was tall camellia shrubs to highlight existing architecture. I remember it differently. The idea, and you've actually shown it in the elevations, I think, properly. The idea was to trim those down and not highlight them, but actually reduce them so as to express the tall arches. I think the proposal is correct.
Right. I think the minutes are incorrect. You're right. So
Yes.
yeah. So we'll just go with what they're proposing.
Right. But other than that, I just have nothing but positive comments. And
I must say, we did recall exactly what you said, and that's why we fashioned our response.
We're not discussing. We're
Okay,
actually
sorry.
making comments.
But no, just I support the project entirely.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to reopen and ask a question. Where are the trees that are being proposed to be removed?
Yeah.
Oh.
That we have to make findings for. Are those
Yes,
the
the Indian
Italian?
hawthorn, Hawthorn that surround the library lawn today.
Right.
The junipers all of the junipers on the site. There's one in front of the Faulkner Gallery, and
we can't hear.
Yeah, hold on 1 second until this is done. Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Campbell.
Okay, so
It's the second page. L03.
moving along. Oh, okay.
Whoops. We propose removing the Hollywood junipers in front of the historic library entry and removing these planters as well. There's another juniper, I believe, down here on the corner. We're removing those junipers. They block views of this corner. We're removing, there's one Hollywood juniper. It's a Hollywood juniper in front of the Faulkner. We're removing that. We're removing the eucalyptus in the planter at the base of the paseo, which is leaning in the direction of the sunlight, leaning to the south, and has dropped numerous branches. We're also removing a eucalyptus. These are both peppermint-scented gums or peppermint gums. They're different from, they're not the same as the lemon gums. And there's one that's leaning precariously over Library Avenue Plaza, and I had showed a photograph of a recent limb that had broken off. We're relocating a couple of plants. We're relocating a beautiful Senegal date palm right here, flanking the south entry to the library, because that is where we're putting the new equal access ramp into the library, and this is in front of the addition, not in front of the historic building. We're removing that and putting it at the corner of Library Avenue and Anacapa Street. We're relocating a European fan palm clump that's right here, that's in a raised planter, which really, really does block views of the combined entry to the library and the Faulkner. It's a beautiful plant, and palms, as you know, are quite readily moved if you move them at the right time of year. And since these are already essentially in containers contained by planters, both of these plants, they should be easily moved. And that one we're proposing to be moved to the corner of Anacapa and Anapamu Street to call out this corner, and also as a tip of the hat to the courtyard palm collection across the street. That's essentially it.
And just where are the, do you know where the Indian hawthorn and...
No, the city hadn't decided yet. They will put them in a park.
Thanks. I don't want to cut you off, but I'm trying to keep time here. Continue with comments then, Commissioner Drury.
Yes, I think it's a lovely project, and I particularly like the fact that you've reemphasized the historic entrance to the library and the Faulkner entrance. Now they are going to be, as I remember when I was a child. I very much appreciate that. Thank you.
Commissioner Lavoie.
I want to thank you for being so thorough in your review of our comments and for the care with which you responded to our comments by responding to them. I support the proposal. Thank you very much for restoring the historic fountain. I know that was a struggle, but thank you for doing that. I think everything you're proposing is appropriate to the area, to the city, and will greatly improve it. The only suggestions I would have to improve the design are not so much landscape as they are architecture. On the, you called it the equal access ramp to the library south entrance. It is if the wall that is the continuation, or the section of it that is the continuation of the arcade wall. Yes. If I'm looking at page L22. If that wall, I'll let them finish. It's at the bottom, right, or in the middle, I guess, right there. If that wall, as it comes out from that thickness, was a thick wall and had a very lazy step down, would simplify that expression of that, and then the other, because of the narrowness of the space there, just came down as a slope. I think it would improve sort of the appearance of all that, and maybe a large pot at the end or something, or nothing, would greatly enhance that experience.
Do you mean instead of the handrails?
Instead
of
the, well, I mean,
or hiding the handrail?
Behind the handrails, in that space where it wraps around. I think you still need the handrails because of the ramp, and you'd want them. The other would be the light fixtures look more Oriental to me than I think the scale of most of them needs restudy, but definitely the one that is on the plaza towards the museum plaza back entrance. That lantern should really be kind of this marvelous, wonderful elaboration of the others, and maybe that's the huge one. You know, and just make it this marvelous thing down at the corner, I think would greatly enhance what you've done. But otherwise, thank you very much for, I think, a great design.
Commissioner Lavoie, I need help with your comment about this and that
I tried not to draw.
Oh, okay. So you're stepping it instead?
Just stepping it down.
Okay.
Yeah, bringing it out and stepping it down, and then the rail goes behind and in front.
Got it.
We usually like that on both sides, but you're very limited in space between the edge of the sidewalk and the ramp.
Yeah.
Elegant.
Okay. Commissioner Rios?
Well, my only comment is that I think the light fixtures do need to be restudied. I think your plans do a lot and enhance the use of the library for the community, and I commend you for the way that you responded to all of our concerns. But I would like to see the light fixtures worked on a little bit. But it's an excellent project.
Commissioner Murray?
I just concur with all those comments. This is just going to be marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. Thank you very much. But the comment by Commissioner Lavoie just top of the cake. It's very nice.
Commissioner Winnick?
Yeah, so definitely am in support of the project. My biggest questions are still about the paving materials, and I guess I would like to see those continue to be studied, brought back to us so that we can evaluate them better. Yeah, maybe even a better rendering of the color rendering to actually really represent the materials. So I think that it's less confusing to us as we look at it. And otherwise, I think it's a good project. I should have asked one question before, but I guess I'll just do it as a statement. You also proposed 2 Kentia palms in front of the museum facade, that one elevation. I think, so maybe I'll ask a question. So you had not proposed 2 Kentia facades?
No.
Okay, then fine. No comment on that.
That might have been the existing Kentias that are there now, which I believe the museum intends to remove.
Got it. Okay, that's fine, because I was going to say that didn't seem, they looked vestigial. Okay, great. I'm done.
Commissioner Mahan?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I agree. I don't understand. This is the herringbone that's in the big plaza?
Yes, we will use it as a herringbone.
Why can't we just use brick?
Because it's not permeable.
Well, in between the cracks, it's permeable, isn't it?
No.
No, no. You guys, please take. I'll concur or disagree with you. So.
Okay. It doesn't reach the permeability we need for the project, according to city policy. We have to use permeable pavers, and we've looked for the finest quality we can find that we feel works with the El Pueblo Viejo guidelines, and that are not interlocking pavers, but allow us a range of paver sizes, so they're dimensions that are square and rectangular. They're the same size as bricks, essentially. They'll be, 4 by 6, or we'll do 4 or 6 by 12, other sizes of pavers, which we will render in patterns then.
Can I jump in also? I know it's your...
Go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, I just want to jump. Maybe this is one of those cases where, and I know it's some cost, but perhaps getting an example of one of these materials in a herringbone pattern so we can see a sample board of it might help.
I was going to suggest that they provide us a location where it's been previously installed. I think that would...
Yeah.
I don't think it's been installed in Santa Barbara yet, so but, we could bring enough.
How many airline miles do you have available for me?
They'll send them to us, I'm sure.
But then in lieu of that, then a mock-up.
Well, this will be precedent setting for them.
Sure.
I guess Mr. Mahan has the floor, please.
I guess it's not the ability of it to be permeable so much as it is the color of it, the salt and pepper, the white and brown. Why can't it be all?
They did say that they were going to work on that coloring, so I'll add that to the comment.
Yeah,
though.
great. Okay, then on L20 2.4, where we're looking at the museum and we're looking at these palm trees, I recognize that the museum wants to use part of this building here for, where's their little pointer?
Oh, here.
Yeah, for this, you want to do movies or something on this. This is going to be a big screen. I can understand that, and I think that's a really great idea. But these trees, of course, when you render a tree, we never know. Is that the tree as you plant it, or is that the tree after 10 years, or what is?
That's probably the tree at 75% of its maximum growth. That's usually the standard. I don't know if they did that. Looks like it's about right.
My feeling is, I mean, I agree that you should keep some space open here for the movie, or going to do art on the. But it seems to me like these trees aren't in scale or appropriate with this piece of architecture they're going against. That either they need to be multi-trunked, or they need to have more foliage, or they just. When I look at this, at the composition of that particular.
Agreed.
It just doesn't come off as being beautiful, and it needs more study. Other than that, I think you're really coming along great.
Commissioner Sharp.
Well, I want to thank the Campbells for an excellent presentation, plus listening to us in point by point presentation. And I agree that the east elevation of the museum needs to have more and higher landscaping, yet leave open the central portion for the any potential art that would go on there, or movies. And I'm concerned that Mr. Aguilar mentioned before we started that the museum has a plan that may not coincide. Is that what I understood you to say?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Sharp, that is, you did hear me say that. The designs are very close, I think, because the Library Plaza submitted their plans a week ago, and the museum has been working this past week to bring plans forward, which you and I will see shortly. I think they're much closer than they were, than I thought a week ago.
So if we were to give this project design approval, it would conflict with the museum or not?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Sharp, no, not necessarily. They honestly, they are very close, and you'll see this. So you'll have actually the ability to give an approval at this time, view the presentation by the museum. If there's something you like there and you want to come back and reopen this item, you have the ability to do that.
Or we could just table the decision. I think that's a cleaner way of doing it. But I do want to the Kencha at full height.
Yes.
Yes.
So they actually grow taller than that. So you can see the size of them against, this is the courthouse inner courtyard. There's the stair tower right there.
Yes.
These are two Kentias. Of course, those were planted in 1928.
Right.
So they're quite tall. Part of what we show is relative to the budget for the project. This is a public project, so we don't expect we'll have full, mature Kentias to put in. So, and Kentias are not fabulously fast growing. I know the museum may be taking some of their Kentias out. Maybe they'll give them to the library.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Let me just say one more comment about those trees. They do seem to be entirely out of scale. And that edifice of the, is it the north wall of the art museum?
That's the east wall.
East wall. I haven't lived here that long. I'm still getting my bearings.
About time.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
That's up, that's down, that's all that matters.
That's all I need to know. But I do think that in terms of looking from the library at the art museum, the east wall, that those oak trees are going to dwarf the palm trees for many years, and I think that they are enough of a statement against that beautiful big wall. I don't know if you, I don't think, my comment would be, I don't think you need those palm trees at all.
Well, you're the
Thank
minority.
No doubt.
Those are the ones I was talking about. I asked if you had proposed Kentia palm trees. Sorry, I'm out of turn, but those are the ones that I thought looked vestigial. They look totally out of scale. So that was what I was talking about. I'm against the Kentias also. I don't think they help.
How does the commission feel using the flagstone versus the sandstone for pavers, for border? Anybody have a higher preference? I personally think that flagstone is more traditional, particularly since it has a little bit more cleft to it than the machined or tooled sandstone. A little more color variation, just a little bit more depth and interest.
But Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Does flagstone conform to ADA requirements as they're currently interpreted?
No, that is worrisome. I also would say that, and just walking around Santa Barbara, you look at, for example, El Paseo, which has the sandstone paving. It has ashlars paving, but it has big, I didn't want to show that because there's huge, wide concrete joints, and that is the soft sandstone, which has been worn out in places. Sandstone.
Sandstone. In El Paseo.
El Paseo, sandstone.
And the Street of Spain.
And the Street of Spain,
all
through there. So we've just preferred the sandstone just because it is, more durable. It's not Santa Barbara sandstone because that's too soft. Montecito sandstone, as it's called. And I know.
It's not from Montecito either.
I'm concerned that you're not going to get the color variation that you're showing us and that we would like to see, and sort of that depth and the cleft that is this. I'm just going to make it as a comment to continue studying it, I think. All right, I'll summarize then, if everybody's done. The Commission appreciates the design, especially the openness and the restoration of the fountain, the original entry, and the preservation or opening up of the views. The light fixtures look more oriental than they do Hispanic. The lantern should be the largest of the fixtures. The other fixtures should be smaller. Slope the ramp on the east.
No, not slope.
No, I'm sorry, step. I had step written down and I couldn't read my writing. Step the ramp on the, what is that? That's the south elevation of the library, putting the rail on the backside of the wall. Continue studying the paving material, provide a color rendering representing the materials, provide location of previously installed step stone permeable pavers, or provide a mock-up. The coloring of those step stone pavers should be less white. The placement and type of trunk, multi versus single, of the Kentia palms needs study. Perhaps different height palms going in would be a solution. The composition is not working on the east elevation.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Composition is fine.
The composition of the planting on the east elevation of the museum is not working.
I think it's more the scale.
It's more the scale.
Then I heard somebody say composition, but I'll take
composition has to do with scale.
Yeah, okay.
The composition and scale. There just needs to be more of it.
The composition and
Yeah,
scale.
more or none. One of the two.
More.
I'm just going to leave it the placement and type of trunk, multi versus single, of the Kentia palm needs study. Perhaps different heights perhaps differing heights are a solution. And then lastly, consider using flagstone versus sandstone for paving.
Okay.
Did I miss anything, or does anybody want to add anything?
I just think we have to do that.
Actually, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Lavoy.
I think comments about the landscaping against the museum are more appropriate in our review of the museum. I think they are an element of this design, as I understand it. That landscaping will be the museum, or
no, that landscaping is
plaza.
Yeah, so.
That I suggest then that we table this approval. I am ready to make a motion to approve it, but I think that approval would be informed by our discussion with the museum.
Commissioner Murray.
I just want to say that we have told the applicant to put Kentia palm in that location. So
Yes.
if we are changing our mind.
No, we're not changing our mind.
Okay.
No.
They're just saying maybe more bigger ones.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
or differing
All
sizes
right.
or whatever.
Okay, well, we're not changing that.
No, we're not changing our minds. So with those comments, Commissioner Lavoy is not making a motion to table, but he is suggesting we table. I concur with that, so we're going to table the decision on this until after we hear the museum's presentation.
Thank you so much.
And be sure you're ready to make the findings for the tree removal.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Arias.
By chance, the art museum is continued for any reason or other, I would like to, as I requested on the minutes of the,
February 12th?
yes, that we have the previous comments made available in advance to allow significant time for review and preparation. I'm repeating what's on the minutes.
Yeah.
Because these are complex, important projects.
On the larger projects, more complex projects, it would be very helpful for the commission to have the previous minutes printed out for us so that we have a chance to review them. Thank you. Sorry, that's right.
Okay.
Good. Sure.
All right. Yes. You know, they have so many drawings. I think we should put these off to the side and then bring them back. As it is, we've been dancing with lots of drawings. Thank you. He's going to return, but we'll start without him.
I agree.
Easier for everybody. So we've made big ones in case everybody down here.
Gabriela's requesting you guys actually make a motion to table that last one. Historically, you guys make a motion to table.
Okay, I could do that.
What building is this? I've never seen these drawings.
Great.
Oh, little one's good. Little one's
We like
good.
little ones. We actually like
You have
little
another
ones.
little one then?
Well, you guys get to share one big, two littles. Okay.
Did everybody leave?
No, Craig, I think, had to leave.
He had to leave.
Phil will be returning.
Okay.
And you have the minutes?
I gotta leave at 5.
And I may also have to leave.
We're going to talk really fast.
All right, well, we're going to, okay, so let's reconvene our session here of the Historic Landmarks meeting. Before we start on this item number 7, I believe, or is this 6? Sorry, item 7. We just need to go back to item 6, and I need a motion to table item 6.
So moved.
Thank you, thank you. So it's by Arias, second by Mahan. So item 6 is tabled.
You got to have a vote.
Sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Tabled. No abstaining. We have 3 commissioners out of the room, though. No Suding, no Sharp, and no Schallenberg. Okay. Item 7. This is the continuation of 1130 State Street, Santa Barbara Museum of Art. I have the meeting minutes from the last meeting. I think they're not so long, so I think I'll read them. Oh, God, I can't even find them.
Mr. Chair, the minutes of June 4th has the
I have them in front of me.
yeah, but they've been
They've been corrected. This is true. You have these. If somebody hands me the corrected ones, I was close enough to that I can probably decipher them. No, I know, but if somebody has the markups, nobody marked them up? Oh, okay.
We'll help you. I'll try to help.
That's all right. We'll read through them, and then if we need to correct it, we will. So the project is heading in the right direction, greatly improved. That wasn't discussed, right? That's fine. Appreciation was expressed for the emulation of the Lockwood DeForest planter wall designs extending around the building as a unifying theme. Study extending the elevator tower back to the roof of the southerly building behind it as viewed from the central library courtyard. There's concern with the lack of landscaping in the museum's wall facing the central library. The rectilinear entrance for the east wing at the library avenue. So instead of the, it said a rectilinear entrance for the east wing at the library avenue plaza preferred. Simplify the fenestration of the punched window openings on the upper level facing the library. Preference expressed for that depicted on sheet 3 of the plans. Number 7, provide an articulation of the proportions of the building where there are setbacks to feel more massive in order to be more consistent. This one got changed, but I think
we changed that one.
we did. Basically, we're trying to make it more in keeping with the architecture of the district, that it has a massive feeling. Provide more consistency of the window molding details to be more substantial with a better sense of the mass of the building. Belt courses should not be too delicate, and we also added cornices to that. Consider making the staff entrance less grand, perhaps a foot lower. The elevator tower building should be simplified.
The elevator tower detailing?
Yes, elevator tower detailing should be simplified. Correct. The wood plank doors are preferred for both the elevator at the elevator tower and the loading doors. The planter proposed along the east elevation should be to match the blend in with the building. We took away the white cast stone as the comment. Study simplifying the height interplay of the gates and adjacent walls. Thank you. Welcome. Please introduce yourselves and make your presentation.
Mr. Chair is back.
Oh, you're back. Yes, by all means. We got one of those. Who did I give this back to?
Michelle Allen with Suzanne Howard Planning and Permitting Services. Welcome. And I'm Bob Kupiak from Kupiak Architects for the museum. Welcome. Thank you. It's nice to be back so quickly.
Okay, good.
Go ahead with your presentation.
Well, and I would say, while the library's presentation is fresh in your mind, I think I would reiterate what Mark had to say. I think that we've been trading information back and forth. I don't think that we are inconsistent, or that their plans are inconsistent with ours. In fact, we've been trading drawings back and forth, and the library has been gracious enough to accommodate how we intend to kind of complete this concept of the Lockwood DeForest scheme and materials and plantings at the critical corner points of the museum. So, truth be known, but we are proposing that, similar to the presentation you saw last time, that we extend the materiality of the Lockwood DeForest scheme so that there is a kind of corner feature that emulates the corner feature on State Street, and that same event would happen again as a way of enclosing the electrical equipment courtyard and the park entrance to the building. And actually what happens in between is really part of the Campbell and Campbell scheme. And, we really are just kind of articulating these corner points, and it really is the library park that's defining the rest of the project. Okay. To that end, I'm going to keep this in front of us. Rather than jumping a couple of things that are happening.
There we go.
As we're on sheet 2, we've clearly articulated the squarish rectangular form of the aperture to the park entrance. We've continued the cornice banding from the existing cornice band across the backside to articulate the hat of the administration building addition, chosen the simpler window pattern that we had all agreed upon being the preferred choice. So we think that this is the appropriate modification. We've kind of diminished the amount, pointer's good, diminished the amount of kind of ups and downs and kind of leveled out the gates that enter the electrical courtyard. This is now an 8-foot door. This does just indicate,
4 cantinas.
And you're seeing the one little element that's at the end, where at the end of the building, we're proposing these raised planters just in a symmetrical pattern about that scalloped wall that encloses the service courtyard.
So if we get 4 cantinas on your plan and 4 cantinas on Campbell and Campbell's plan, we get 8 altogether.
This is a Photoshop job to make them larger, so, it's not a problem. And we wouldn't be opposed to, larger. So, as we said, I think from the museum's vantage point, having the ability to do programming from the park is kind of an important event for everybody. So, we're happy to see the planning scheme as it's been evolved. Just to give everybody another look at the revised window pattern, belly band for the cornice running around the building, the at-grade planters that will flank the staff entrance, a simplified version of the gate to the yard, and the continuation of the kind of Lockwood DeForest base wall that would take us into the new entrance to the building. Trish is going to keep me at pace. On the we've increased the cornice. Instead of a shallow cornice, we've taken the larger cornice on the building and applied it to the top of the elevator shaft. We've indicated a kind of sympathetically colored vent for the air vent in the elevator, and go on to, this is indicated like last time of the plank doors, and you are seeing that where we were last time with this kind of extension of the Lockwood DeForest vocabulary to define that corner. I'm not sure why this was here. Well, and hence, there's a couple of different versions that we've looked at, having 2-foot planters on either side, having 2-foot planters on either side. There'll be some images where this center wall might be lower to relieve this. I think our favorite scheme is just to have the same thing that's on the other side, which is just the 2-foot planter, wrap it around the building, create the symmetrical corner, and call it a day. We did want to talk about the study. We've done this study that tries to indicate what happens when the shaft of the building is made deeper to drive back into the roof of the McCormick Gallery, which is what we talked about before. In fact, if we actually took this mass and tried to engage it completely into the building, if you see in plan, we'd actually be running into the hip line of the roof. So I don't think this is really possible to do. And I think some alternatives to that are to keep the roof area behind the elevator shaft lower, but still in plane with the building so that it drives in and catches you, wind up with that little triangular area that comes in. Or I would still say that our preferred scheme is to not only make it lower, but to tuck it inside so that the shaft, there is a connection back to the roof line of the building here, but that the shaft of the elevator tower, at least from its side face, does not try to engage the roof.
That's option 2 you're talking about.
Right.
Refresh my memory. What was the request to bring
to
that?
actually grow this back, and
that was to resolve the top there, or was that to actually move
I think there was
the
an
face?
idea that it was a cleaner way of looking at that side of the building.
Okay.
But I think what
So
we didn't realize even when we were talking about it then is that if that building grows, it actually starts. It doesn't hit a flat face of the roof. It starts to hit the hip line of the roof, and it's a mess.
Awkward.
So I think that
So it has nothing to do with the dimension of that open. Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
Like I said, I think that the resolutions of it are to either just grow it back slightly, or I think to just leave the clean vertical line of this and contain this inside back by a foot so that the shaft, the edge of that edge of the shaft is in this rendering, just reads as a clean element that engages into the roof of the McCormick building.
I would have to agree. What's the difference between these two?
You know, it's
Showing
really the
that.
bottom. So if we look at the same drawing and we're kind of seeing the difference between just a 2-foot planter that turns the corner or a 2-foot planter on either side of the scallop with a lower curb in between. And our preference is this one, and it's identical to the version that's at the other side. And hence,
right.
That's the lower version that we kind of would rather just see this one continuous line continue around. And here is the revised, the building with a large, several things happened here. The cornice got increased in scale. This got moved and colorized in the same way that the doors are colorized, the panel doors are colorized, and actually this building, if you would remember last time, this little wing off to the side was lower, and it was requested that from this cornice line of the Sterling Morton Gallery that we actually carry that line across into the building to kind of simplify the ups and downs of that facade, and we actually think that's a pretty good idea. So you can see that's where we were, and that's where we'll be to resolve that particular comment.
Just so I'm clear, so you prefer the top?
The upper one.
The upper one.
Yeah,
yes.
please, thank you.
Okay, that's it.
And I think that is all of the comments.
Okay.
Public comment.
All right. I will open public comment. I have 2 speaker slips, one from Kellum DeForest and another from Scott Love. If Mr. Love could come up to the front and be ready when called upon. Go ahead, Mr. DeForest.
You've already answered one question, that it is the plaza, the library's problem to tackle the trees. And I think possibly if on the kinta palms, if there were clumps of kinta palms, might be better, although it would be nice to see if there were some other kind of plant that might grow a little taller that might help frame your movie screen now. I do want to know, does the extension of my father, Lockwood DeForest, vocabulary include the use of natal plums?
Kaffir plums.
What?
Kaffir plums.
Kaffir plums, so
Yes.
that's natal plums, sir.
Okay.
They were called in my youth. And has the elevator shaft for the elevator tower for the roof garden been approved? I thought that, although not visible from State Street, certainly is visible from other parts of town and is problematic, at least to me. I think it's rather ugly, and maybe it should be a tower, not just an elevator tower. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. Mr. Love, if you want to come over to this microphone here, sure, and turn it on by pressing the oblong button.
And I'm Scott Love. I am representing the library department, and I just wanted to thank the museum for what they've done. We are in support of the project, and we've worked long and hard this last, close to a year on stuff, including right to this morning, and we are in support of the project.
I thought I smelled fresh ink.
Thank you.
I'm just going to get back to a page that shows more. Okay. All right. I will close public comment and bring it to the commission for questions. Commissioner Sharp, do you have any questions?
No.
Commissioner Mahan.
Yes, I want to not reconsider, but at our meeting a month ago, we talked about the truck turning backing up issue, and the diagram didn't look right to us, and that has kind of dropped away, and I want to bring that back up as an issue. We had a comment from a fellow architect who has done a lot of work with trucks, and he points out that generally speaking, trucks don't like to back up where they into a blind curve, meaning the truck driver's on the left-hand side of the truck and he's backing up where he can't see. He would rather come westbound on Anapamu Street, past and then back up where he can see where he's going. So it may be that the diagram is not really realistic as to the way truck drivers will do it, and we need to look at a diagram in case they're coming westbound on Anapamu, and we need to make sure that the pattern of the truck fits into this driveway and into these gates and so on and so forth. So I don't want to let that slip through the cracks.
You do realize we are in questions.
Yeah. Okay. That's a question. Well, it was a question. Can we do that? Okay. Sorry.
It was a question that wasn't answered.
Yeah. I'm just giving you a hard time. You know that. Commissioner Winnick.
Nothing is colorful, so I'll wait for comments.
Questions?
No
Okay.
questions.
Any questions, Commissioner Murray?
So I wasn't here last time, so I can only ask questions and I will not be able to comment. But so this is your rendering of the ways of reducing it. This is the most you could do. I mean, given all the conditions.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, we kind of left last time saying, we're kind of locked into
You're locked into
geometry. But
it's okay. It's okay.
I don't know if you had a chance to look at
No, sorry, I didn't.
but just to maybe allay your fears.
And I don't think this is just for the benefit of Commissioner Murray. This is the benefit of everybody looking at this project.
This is a photo sim from Library Park.
I need to get it onto the screen.
So these are two photo sims. That's about all that's visible of the tower. So, the wonderful part about the big trees that are up in front is they kind of render the elevator tower almost invisible, certainly not invisible. Clearly, even from another vantage point out on Anapamu Street, there's very little of the vertical shaft that you can actually see, unless you're immediately in the Paseo.
Okay. Any other questions, Commissioner Murray?
Thanks. Thank you.
Commissioner Rios, any questions?
Yes, I was unable to attend the last meeting, but I had a question then which I would like to ask you again. On the rooftop garden, are you planning lights?
Are you illuminating the rooftop terrace?
Well, we will certainly provide lighting on the rooftop terrace, but that lighting will have to meet dark sky requirements of Santa Barbara. So we'll illuminate the floor surface so people can walk around safely.
When you come back, I would like to have additional comments on it because there's been rather different approvals on lighting on roofs by this group, and I would like to make sure what your plan are. Thank you.
We'd be happy.
Commissioner Lavoie?
Were those photo sims shown at the last meeting?
Yes.
Oh, damn. I wasn't here at the last meeting, and I don't have any questions. I'd love to see them, though.
Sure.
Commissioner Drury, any questions?
It may be just a procedural question. I know that we gave direction last meeting to the architect about the composition of the the freight doors, and I think the commission decided on that wood doors were preferred. Is there any chance to reopen that, or are you wedded to that also? My understanding is, and this is just why I'm asking this question, is that metal doors would be more appropriate in terms of this building?
I think that we would, in an effort to satisfy both the constructability of the door, I think these should be plank doors. They should look like plank doors, but the assembly of the of the door should actually be made out of metal.
I think what Commissioner Jury is asking is, are these doors better expressed in metal?
Thank you.
Or better expressed in wood?
So it's because we had given them direction 2 weeks ago. As in the commission, I just wondered if there was an opportunity in this procedure to reopen that question.
If I remember correctly, the comment did not say express it in wood, but it just said restudy the expression of the door material. Am I, Mr. Aguilar?
Mr. Chair, I guess the corrected minutes read, the wood plank doors are preferred at the elevator tower and loading doors.
Okay.
So we're stuck.
No, you're not.
No, not stuck, but if you can make an argument.
But if you recall that we actually provided two different schemes. One was a wooden plank door, and another one was a door that was constructed with wrought iron as a grillage instead.
Okay, so I'll save my comment then.
Yeah, there you go.
I have.
Any other questions?
Well, I do have one more question. So the elevator tower, the idea of wetting it to the roof with a linearity is pretty much off the table. It just provides, it's just too much.
It doesn't work.
That's good enough. Thank you.
No, but I know. But did we want that displayed or did we want that just? Okay. Did you get your question answered? I'm sorry, I was...
No, I finished my questions. I said thank you.
All right.
Oh, I have one more
Go
question.
ahead.
Never mind.
Would the museum be amenable to, let's say that we want larger and more kencha palm to make that, would you be able to contribute cost toward that?
I don't know that he is prepared.
I'm not empowered to spend more money.
Answer that question.
any more rapidly than I'm spending it now.
I think we would save it for a comment. Okay. We would like the museum to. Okay, very good.
Got it.
All right. Any more questions?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, would I be able to make my comments because I have to leave in about 10 minutes?
Sure.
I'm going to be talking for about 10 minutes, so.
Go ahead. No. Commissioner Jury, comments, please.
Yes. So I think this is getting there, and I really appreciate. I think it was page 7, the upper elevation that you showed on the Anapamu side with that lovely cast shadow. I think that's a wonderful solution. I suspect there's going to be some comments made about the park entrance. I think there's still work to be done. There was a comment made in my earshot about something about Beverly Hills. I don't know if that has any resonance. I also would like to say, and I think that those photographic simulations that you showed point up my point emphatically, and that is I think that any further trees against that facade would be a big mistake. On the library's part, I think this is a really beautiful elevation, and then I think that I would like to, I would very much like to see the doors studied, and if you prefer the metal doors, I think that's the direction that the doors should go. You as an architect, I think we got caught up in the idea of the Libero Theater. Well, this building is not the Libero Theater. It's a very unique building, and I think that metal doors would be more appropriate. My comment.
Commissioner Lavoie.
I have two sets of comments. One is more based on the review of the library plan. I'd like to make those now, and then to reserve an observation after I've heard from the other commissioners. So I'll start with based on the library plan. The library sets up a major axis in their plan, and it's a very strong cross-axis, and it is against the large blank wall of the museum. And it seems an incredibly wasted opportunity to just use that blank wall to show a movie once in a while. That something on that wall should be something more permanent and less ephemeral. a piece of sculpture perhaps mounted up on the platform that becomes the focus of that, and it could be quite large if quite flat. In the past, the museum has used their blank wall to mount transitional art, which the art was really kind of nice. The mounting was really kind of ugly, and it all looked like billboards. But if a large piece of even transitional art was placed on that axis, would be a lovely use of both that axis and the strength of it and that lovely blank wall. And the commitment to have that as more permanent rather than an occasional movie screen would probably sort of like negate the discussion we're having about planting more trees there. Not that I don't think more trees would be lovely against that wall. But your renderings showing the perspectives that I just looked at showing the scale of the oak trees against that wall sort of negate that, but still doesn't. I still think the strength of that axis needs something permanent and something important, either as a sculpture against a white background or as a piece of art up on the building. And if you wanted to show movies up high, that wouldn't bother me at all. But I think it's a wasted opportunity for something that's going to happen even 12 times a year on a 2-hour basis.
Commissioner Rios?
Well, I was not, as I said at the previous meeting, I do know that I had concerns about the delivery and the truck backups and the effect on the streets and things. And also, I had concerns about the lights. I think Mr. Lavoie raises an interesting question, which ultimately the decision is going to rest with both you and the library. I understand that movies are shown at the courthouse, and I don't know how many venues we need downtown and things like that. Certainly, it's an intriguing idea to put something significant up there on a permanent basis. It would be something I would leave up to you. That's my comments.
Commissioner Murray?
I can't make comments because I wasn't here, so I just ask one more question. So these movies are they mostly sort of public, like the museum will show them, or could the library show them too? I mean, is this just like a use of this space for?
I think the answer to that question, at least from my vantage point, also having worked on some parks where this kind of programming technology has been used, I mean, the activation of this park, especially in the evening hours, it's from my vantage point, the more programmed activity you can create in that plaza, the healthier that plaza will be. And I think that providing an opportunity for both the library and the museum and other city, to use that space for public gathering events. I mean, we were just talking to somebody else who, in the failing La Cumbre Plaza, they get 250 to 300 people a night to go watch a film out in front of Macy's. I think that kind of activity here is very appropriate. I mean, whether or not there should be an axial event there that happens lower than might obstruct, a projection of an element. But I think that preserving some of that blank wall for that kind of public activity is part of how we're going to cure the park.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Commissioner Whittick, comments?
Well, stay on the same theme. I appreciate Commissioner Lavoie's civic-mindedness and urban planning comments, and I'd like to support that. And that I'm even wondering if maybe just say to study it. I'm not saying it's the right solution. Maybe the planter breaks at that point. That it's one place where the planter comes back to the wall or something, and that gives you an opportunity to put sculpture that's not raised up. It actually is at the grade level. But whatever, just something to study. I think acknowledging the axis is worthwhile. And I think the other comment, I still think the front elevation of the elevator tower still needs study. I guess I'd be open. I'll answer Commissioner Drury's question. I would be I would be open to restudying the idea of metal doors versus the wood plank, but I don't think the ones we saw last time would be where I would go. I don't know what the solution is, but I'm just not so sure that that was the right solution.
Just to remind everybody where we were.
Yes.
That actually we created a kind of curvilinear volute up at the top and started to create a kind of iron door with a blind behind it.
Yeah, and I would say that I don't see that as a great solution. Can we go back to the one we were on? I mean, thanks for the reminder. I do think this is an improvement over that, what we're seeing in front of us today, but I would be open to it being further studied. I think I would want to see more depth still, and I'm not sure if you can do that architecturally because of your constraints, but in one of the drawings and renderings, it looked very thin, the amount of masonry stepping back to it. And I'm also wondering if on the vent, I was just wondering if on the vent you might be able to look at maybe some of the other examples in Santa Barbara where maybe it's not set back as a window, but it's more as a perforation in the facade. And I don't know, somehow that vent, I keep getting stuck on that one. It's the sole eye on the tower. And I guess for me, it's like if I have something like it's a clock tower and you have a central item, it makes sense. But this isn't a clock tower. We don't really want to celebrate the vent that's ventilating the elevator. And otherwise, I think that you've made good strides. I think the project's very supportable. Thank you.
Commissioner Mahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The discussion between metal door and wood door, metal is very shiny, even if it's green or gray. I've been noticing the gray roofs on the Riviera, and sometimes when the sun hits them right, they're glistening. Their metal is very smooth and very shiny, no matter what color it is. Wood has a texture to it, and so it's softer. That's why I like wood better, because I think it has a softness to it that it might be a steel frame behind and be a steel door with wood, with wood. In fact, my garage doors are steel, but they have wood on the outside. But that's why I like wood better. I think it's softer and it's more appropriate to El Pueblo Viejo. I think that the louver up above is mundane. It should be a grill or something more decorative and appropriate to the Mediterranean style architecture. I very much like the fact that the upper where you're bringing this belt course along and it turns into the cornice. So I think that works really well. I prefer the option 2, where the tower cuts into the roof a little ways so that it locks into the roof, but it doesn't have to go all the way to the ridge as in option 1. And I think option 3 that doesn't hit me at all. I like option 2, where it goes back a little ways and just so long as it locks into there. I think that in the east elevation, let's see, we're going to get to the east elevation here. Where is it? Where the trees, there we go. I agree with the architect that having movies here, having events in the Library Plaza is very, very important to the safety and welfare of the and they have them over at the courthouse, and they're very popular. And they could have something else here. I think that also somebody suggested that maybe the planter be interrupted here and the sidewalk go back. And on State Street Plaza, we have foundations in for public art to be bolted down, and so that sometimes the museum could put a piece of sculpture up there. That would be public sidewalk, and they could put a sculpture up there, and then they could take the sculpture down, and you could have a movie. And I think that a variety would be very, very good. And so you might we will communicate with the library about possibly doing it both ways. The trees need to be more romantic and more clumpy in different heights. I think that's really the library's issue, but this is a very big plain elevation, and it needs that. The pictures that you show back from the Faulkner Gallery, where this is all screened by the oak trees, is that, that's one way to look at it. But when you're coming up the sidewalk, and you're coming up this sidewalk, and you've got the museum on one side and the trees on the other side, then that big white wall is cold and white and vacant, and it needs to be softened with landscaping. And so from that vision point, I think these trees and this landscaping would be very important. I like your simplification of the windows, and I think this is really coming along. I can live with this, with this new entrance as you have conceived it here. So this is in lowering the door, the service door, I think, is very good. I'm generally very supportive of these changes.
Okay. Commissioner Sharp.
Thank you. The Campbells do have a plan with them today that has a recess that comes almost to the wall, centered on their east-west axis. So that has already been displayed, and they've articulated that low wall at the ends, and it's very, very well done, in my opinion. I agree that this building might be a little, and the use of the building might be a little too sophisticated to have wood plank doors, and that we should explore metal or some other non-shiny type, more sophisticated material. I agree with option 2. I think that an engagement is very important rather than looking like an addition. And last time you mentioned plaster recesses between those windows on the east elevation where the offices are. I didn't see those on this plan.
By the time we put the cornice line band through the building and simplified the windows, we just felt that there was nothing else in the building that was that articulated. So that, in fact, just leaving it simple with the window punches and that heavy cornice line looked much better than trying to go to yet another level of articulation.
You had mentioned a preference for that 2 weeks ago.
And we got a chance to internally look at it, but it just seemed to be overly decorated.
And I'm still concerned about the truck backing up and hitting that center column or the other side. You really should restudy the maneuvering of the size truck that's going to be coming in there.
The only thing that I can say to maybe allay your fears to some degree is some of the diagrams that we showed. We've been working with Penfield and Smith, so this has been analyzed by their traffic engineers to make sure. We realize, based upon the real estate that we have, this is a tight turn. There's going to be museum personnel out there working with the trucks to get themselves to back in.
That's enough. We're in the comment period, and so your opportunity to respond to our comments
is later.
For 2 weeks.
A little later.
If there's a pressing. Ms. Bedard.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I just wanted to bring a point of order clarification before we got to a motion and a vote. Because we are now down 2 commissioners and 4 of the members were absent from the last review, I just thought it would be a good idea to take a moment to each of the members that were absent explain whether or not, per the quorum requirements, if they had had a chance to review the prior meeting minutes, videos, etc., to be informed to vote. Either way, an abstention does not count against a quorum, so I think we'll be okay for the quorum. But I just want, for the point of record, to have each of the members that were absent explain their position on whether or not they will abstain or not.
I will not be abstaining from this vote since I did watch the previous presentation 2 weeks ago.
I will not abstain because even though I did not watch the tape, I read the minutes. I'm very familiar with this project, having reviewed it and studied the historic report, so I feel qualified to vote on it.
I would agree. Commissioner Rios?
I also have gone through all the reports and reviewed the minutes and everything like that. So I feel that I've followed through and followed it. And if there's any complaints about me being on halfway through,
As long as you vote in favor, there'll be no complaints.
I was unable to attend. I was in the emergency room.
Thanks. Commissioner Lavoie.
I wasn't here for the prior discussion, so I do feel that I ought to abstain. I would like to make a general comment, though, on the direction that it's going before a motion is made.
And now's the time. We're in comments.
If I could. I had seen some of the stuff you had done before, and I greatly appreciate the 3D modeling and the perspectives and the volume of building expressed in line, or rather not in line, but in mass and shadow. I think it far better expresses architecture than line work ever does, even with color and shadow. And I saw some things I liked and some things I didn't, but I wasn't there. I don't get to comment on them. But in the direction you're going, you've responded to the comments as best I understand them. That's fine. But the end result is, unfortunately, I think, a building designed by committee, or at least as I see 3 architects' hands. One, the original architect who did the original remodel. Then the architect who did the freight entrance, and the architect who did the remodel of the last of the park entrance, as you call it, and then the architect who did the tile roofs on the park side. You need to all get in the same room and get your heads together and pull the design, step back and pull the best elements of that together so it looks like it's one building. It's one compatible building in a unified architectural expression, as a piece of advice, without being specific about this or that or this or that. You've shown your talent in being able to develop different schemes in response. Yeah. So now step back and do what you think ought to be done to make that all work together, rather than I've responded here, I've responded there, I've responded here. Yes, you have, quite well. Mm-hmm. But now, get back. Let your own talent design the solution, and I think we will probably like it.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Sorry, just one other further clarification on that matter that we were just discussing. I would suggest that, unfortunately, we strike Commissioner Lavoie's comments from the record, because he just admitted that he has not been fully informed from the prior meeting when he was absent, and therefore you should not be commenting.
If that's staff's position,
It's fine. We all heard it. It's fine. Struck from the record, but heard.
In the records, but we've heard it.
That's fine. But for staff's edification, I only did not watch the video. I read the minutes and been part of the discussion.
Okay. I'll summarize the comments and then look for a motion. Provide a plan of the truck turning radii on Anapamu into and out of the ARF area. ARF in capital letters. Start to show the rooftop terrace lighting, the same height cornice at the connection of the gallery. What is this gallery here? McCormick Gallery? This one? What's that gallery?
That's Sterling Morton.
Sterling Morton. Okay. The same height cornice at the connection of the Sterling Morton Gallery to the tower. It's the top simulation shown on page 7 is preferred. Study the material of doors on the ARF loading area. Wood is nice, but perhaps there's a metal solution that is more sophisticated. East elevation being blank may be a lost opportunity to do something wonderful, perhaps sculpture, perhaps a break in the ground plane landscape, which I think we've already got. But the ARF doors could use more study, particularly in the material. That could be combined with study that, so just strike that one, please. That last one that I made. Study the vent on the tower to be less prominent. Option 2 on sheet 6 is the preferred treatment of the tower where it meets the roof behind. Pursue joint cost of the landscape on the east elevation with the public library. Or pursue joint cost with the public library of the landscape on the east elevation. Okay, that's all the comments I had. Did I miss anything under discussion?
Mr. Chair, did
Yes,
you leave out my
Commissioner.
comment about the lighting on the roof?
No, that was my second one. Start to show the rooftop terrace lighting.
Thank you.
That work for you? Okay.
Mr. Chair, there was a comment about the elevator tower on the roof, and I don't think we've looked at the elevator tower at all, at least recently.
I wasn't referring to that tower.
No, I know you weren't, but when Kellum DeForest brought up the issue of the there is an elevator tower up there somewhere, and we haven't really looked at that. I remember that, a couple of weeks ago at the La Entrada thing, we fussed a lot about the elevator towers. And
how about to add a comment then at the next presentation?
We need to look at that.
Show a comprehensive proposal on the rooftop terrace elevator.
Yeah.
Okay, those are the comments that I have. Anybody?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chair.
We're looking for
2 weeks continuance?
2 weeks.
I have a question about process and where we're at with the
Does
project.
it make a difference if we make the motion?
Probably.
Then what's your
Well,
process?
I kind of want to bring up a larger perspective on what we're doing with the project. As you know, my mic is on.
Yeah. Just go close.
That's better. Kiss it.
I'm not going to kiss it for you. Thank you. We are hoping to move along to Planning Commission. I understand there are some concerns and requests to further refine the project architecture. However, we were here in August with the big presentation, with our proposal. We received the compatibility criteria analysis to move on to Planning Commission. At that time, there were project revisions that did bring us back here, and they had to do with things that you saw 2 reviews previous, with the bond beam, help me out with the McCormick building, and also some changes to the post office roof and skylight to provide more roof area for our rooftop equipment. So those were the things that brought us really back to before we're able to move on to Planning Commission. I'm almost done.
No, I'm trying to figure something
So
out.
I'm just kind of giving you the full context of our processing path. Because we were coming back with those changes, that was the right thing to do, to come back. We picked up some of the comments that you made back in August to study this, study that with the architecture. And so we've been kind of doing all those. The 2 items that brought us back to you in May, actually the commission was okay with. At that time in May, we did present and showed the whole project and the rooftop terrace. And at that time, we asked about a roof treatment in terms of the material. Would a flat roof be, okay, and remove the tile to kind of deal with that massing? So from my point of view, if you don't mind indulging me one more minute, we're down to a lot of details that I would definitely expect after we get our project approval at Planning Commission. And this has been, there's no question this work here has improved and I think brought the building design more cohesive all around, and we continue to welcome that and work towards that. Are we are we here with compatibility criteria in terms of bigger picture, mass bulk and scale, that kind of thing.
Ms. Allen, are you looking for project design approval?
I can't, Mr. Chair, I cannot get project design approval. I have to go to the planning, actually I have to go to City Council. I have to go to the Planning Commission and get the development plan approved and come back here for architectural design approval. And I feel like we're working on all the work that's needed for project design approval, that level. We're still really at concept, even though you see pretty developed plans in front of you.
So what you're looking for is for us to
Move
give,
us along the
give
planning
positive
commission.
comments to move you towards planning commission.
And with these,
I did that. We did that back.
I guess she's asking us to renew that.
Renew that, okay.
renew those so that we could go to planning commission, and then we'll definitely deal with all these things. And
Right. So yeah, I mean,
Wood's
back in August, we did continue you indefinitely to the planning commission with some comments.
Right.
But Mr. Chair, we had some grave reservations about that northeast corner.
Yeah.
And that's why we've gone through this exercise now.
Right. Because subsequent to that August, we had one
You said
in
go to the
May.
planning commission, but we are not yet approving that northeast corner.
that's correct. I'm not, and
No, I know.
actually in that corner I think has improved greatly with
Exactly.
all the comments
No
that you've
question.
provided us.
So I don't know that it's appropriate or that we need to do the project compatibility analysis. Is staff feeling that we do need to do that all over again?
Mr. Chair, I think it would benefit the project certainly for you to make a refreshed compatibility analysis, given the extent of work that the applicant has brought forward to the commission over the past 3 meetings.
Okay, then I think we should make it clear that we're renewing the project compatibility analysis, because I find it contradictory if we have it in a timeline of events and then we do it again. That's unless we clarify that it's a renewal of it, because somebody's going to get confused, and this is an important step or analysis to make. Do you agree?
Mr. Chair, staff concurs.
Okay. Commissioner Murray.
I just have one concern, because I think listening from the general advice from Villavoy, these comments, like especially the number 11 elevator tower building should be simplified, the wood plank doors. I think this is the part of this project that is not really fully tying the building's architecture. Misinform me if I'm mistaken, but I just feel this is the part that we are asking the architect to put all his got to unify, to take that piece corner there and unify it with the rest of the building. That's the sense of,
I understand.
all these other things you've done, the corner, they told you to do the corners, you've done that.
Much better than the one you saw in
Okay,
August.
yeah.
Anyway, that's my
get into a
sense. So
discussion.
I'm comfortable doing the.
But, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Commissioner Murray, did you finish?
Okay. What I was saying was I am uncomfortable doing the compatibility when I feel that there's one little struggle that just needs a little more push.
Okay.
Chair, speaking to the process and not the design, which I think I can do, I think the issues, it is perhaps time to let Planning Commission weigh in on the location and size of this loading dock. That is part of their purview. I don't think we are asking for a change in size, bulk, and scale, or if we are, it's a minor change. It's a matter of noodling and massaging what is space there already. I think we haven't made any comments about height or bulk or any of that. We've been talking architectural detail. And perhaps if, there have been some questions, and they're valid questions, about whether a truck should be backing into this, but that is the Planning Commission's purview. And before this architect and this design team spends more time doing that it might be good to have the Planning Commission weigh in on that and then advise us back that they don't see a problem with it, or they do, and this is how they're going to have to adjust the building to make it work to them. So whatever it takes for us to get them to Planning Commission, I would encourage the board or the commission to move in that direction.
Is it this project?
Okay. So is somebody ready to make a motion?
Yes, I am. Yes, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion incorporating, first of all, to continue this to Planning Commission rather than, so it's continued indefinitely to Planning Commission.
To renew our
Yes.
continuance to, yes, okay.
Right, we're renewing our continuance
make
to the
that
Planning Commission. We're also going to renew our compatibility analysis. But first, I would like to just incorporate the comments that you made summarizing the meeting. I would also, that were made during the meeting, I would also just like to add the comment that Commissioner Sharp made that we expressed some reservations about the elevator tower and how it's accessed from the street.
Okay.
And then I would just like to, I guess, use this language that's here, the compatibility analysis. Is this actually from this prior meeting?
No.
No.
So if you just say that the commission has reviewed the proposed project
I'll do
and
that.
compatibility analysis, and then just, you do need to read the whole
Right,
thing.
okay, so we have reviewed the proposed project and compatibility analysis criteria have been generally met for this project, and as follows, that it does comply with the city charter and municipal code, it's consistent, it complies with the El Pueblo Viejo landmark design guidelines, that it's compatible with the architectural character of the neighborhood and the city, that it does have appropriate size, mass, bulk, height, and scale, that it's sensitive to the adjacent landmarks and historic resources, that it is compatible with the public views, and not of the ocean in this case, but of the mountains, that it has the appropriate amount of open space and landscaping. And we want to carry these comments forward to the Planning Commission.
Second. I'll second that motion.
And a motion by Winnick, a second by Mahan. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain.
I think I should abstain.
One abstention by Commissioner Lavoie.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Staff is giving me a look, and then I'll get to you. No look? Blank look? Okay, that's good.
You're shaking your head no. Come on.
We're going to
hang it in there.
We're going to reactivate. What's the right word? We're going to rehear it and open the library again.
because you may be losing
No,
our
it's
support,
okay. No,
so
let's get going.
let's
It's
the
important.
library down.
So we are going to untable project 6, which is 40 East Anapamu Street. I have read the comments on that. If I need to read them again?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Do you want to add anything based on our review of the museum?
let me allow.
Great.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
I'd like to make motion for project design approval with the following conditions. That more informal planting with elements of taller scale be installed along the east side of the art museum. That installation allow for placement of art on the major axis of the plan and the potential use of that wall for a movie, as a movie screen. The comments per your previous list of comments, including the lighting and the cheek wall at the south entrance to the library. This design approval does not include paving materials, which require further study and resolution.
Second?
Wait, how about the trees?
Oh, the tree removal findings, making the findings, the removal of the trees. That it is in the principles of good forest management and will best be served by the proposed removal, and that the removal of these trees will potentially enhance the viability of the existing oak trees, and that a reasonable and practical development of the property on which the tree is located requires removal of the tree or trees whose removal is sought.
Okay, I have a motion by Lavoie and a second. Actually, I have a second by Murray. I see a hand raised. Okay.
Open for discussion. Sorry, I just want to add.
All right, discussion.
Just because Commissioner Sharp said there was a break in the landscaping on that access, I'm not actually seeing it, so I just would
It's
like.
not on these plans, but it's on some other plan.
You have to go to another site plan.
Oh gosh. All I was going to say is, can we just add one comment that we'd like them to consider a break in the access?
I think he did take that into consideration when he said provide access to that sculpture.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. There it is, there it is, there.
Very well done.
Right, but is that the proposed plan?
That's the existing.
Oh. Then I would modify that part of the statement. That it be more like the existing condition.
Something, we show a work.
Okay. Did you get that? Ms. Feliciano?
That my comment to accommodate art on the major axis, that it be more like the existing pattern.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you.
Yeah,
for
is under
indulging me.
discussion? Actually, we haven't taken the vote, so under discussion.
Yeah, under discussion, it's important that in that place there where they might put the art, that you have foundation underneath the sidewalk and that you have inserts so that they can bolt things down. You want to have your engineer study that appropriately. Some of these sculptures are very, very big and they have a lot of leverage. Excuse me,
you left before the bell rang.
Yeah, I had one more comment, and that thing threw me off.
All right.
Oh yes, that I think we would suggest that the library and the museum work together in terms of the cost of some of this planting.
That was made in the museums, but we'll make it in the library too. Is
I
the maker
agree.
of
I agree.
Enhance the trees.
Okay. Maker of the motion is okay with it. The seconder is as well. Are we ready?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Yay,
Have it.
thank you.
Unanimous. Meeting is adjourned.